Hey everyone, welcome back for another UFWJ watch party. Think the stakes are higher today than they were the previous two watch parties. Obviously, group stage, you're playing to get into the medal round, and Canada obviously was a favorite to be, it looked like a lock to be in the group stage or into the medal round. So no surprise there, but now it's win and play for gold, lose and play for bronze. So the stakes are a lot higher when it gets to this point of the tournament where you're playing to determine what medal color you're playing for. And Canada's playing Czechia today, a rematch of a game on this past Saturday. Less than a week ago, they played Czechia in the group stage, and Canada won 5-1, firing 57 shots on goal. On Thomas Suchanek, who that was, I believe, his first start of the tournament for Czechia. He was player of the game. That was a tournament high 52 saves. We all know Thomas Suchanek came back and shut the door against the Americans in the quarterfinals just on Wednesday, which was obviously a huge upset. All day long on Wednesday, and in the preview show, the medal round preview show, myself and Dean Millard kept saying, There's no way there's going to be an upset, or it'd be a big surprise if there was an upset. It's going to be Canada, USA, Finland, Sweden advancing, but USA got upset 4-2 by Czechia. Obviously, an empty net goal there in the final minutes, so really a one-goal game. But Yuri Kulich had a big game. Buffalo Sabres first-round pick, had the empty netter, but also had 2 assists, 3-point day for Czechia, as well as for Republic of the Seven Seas. They also had Matya Sapovalov, who ended up getting the game-winning goal. He had the 3-1 goal in the second period for Czechia. So big day for Republic of the Seven Seas as they kept their medal hopes alive. As you can see in UFWJ, they're within 45, within 50 points of Scoreway for the bronze. Scoreway, although they're currently in bronze position, is actually closer to gold than they are to fourth place. So they look pretty solidified in a medal spot. But again, we've seen throughout this tournament, we've had days, again, now we're down to 2 games instead of 3 or 4 games in a day, but we've seen days of 78 points, 75 points, several days of 50-plus points. So, again, you'd have to gain that on the opponent over the next 2 days. Today's the semifinals, tomorrow are the medal games. Short but sweet Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors debut. But certainly if you made up 25 points today and 25 points tomorrow, you're potentially bumping out a country like Scoreway, or Scoreway's potentially overtaking Eastender Valtacunya heading into this finale of the inaugural UFWJ tournament on the Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports platform, UFFsports.com. Check us out. The only place where you can play Dynasty World Juniors. This is the Dynasty League. And the way it works is there's obviously, see here, 10 countries, same as the World Juniors, all uniquely branded. The owners got to come up with create their own country name, their own country flag. Very cool branding, as you can see. And then they went to work on drafting. And in 10 countries, they drafted a full 25-man roster. Every single player, all 249 players at this year's World Juniors had value in UFWJ, including time on ice being a scoring category. So I keep getting pins and needles stuck in my head. But Dean Millard was there live for Switzerland, Austria, and he said there's about 70 people inside Rogers, freezing cold Rogers Place on was that a Friday morning or a Saturday morning in August on a hot summer day, 30 degrees Celsius outside, and he's on pins and needles watching Austria and Switzerland to see who is going to advance to the quarterfinals, because again, when you get into this situation, into these final 3 games, quarterfinal, semifinal, medal games, games played become currency in the Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors, especially with time on ice being a category. And if you have a number of players from Czechia, all of a sudden now you're guaranteed 2 more games of 15 plus minutes of ice time likely for a lot of the go-to players, and that's going to add up into fantasy points. Whereas Valtacunya, for example, lost 7 players from the United States when the Americans were upset by Czechia just on Wednesday. That was a huge blow for Valtacunya. They're leading the standings. They're still the favorite for gold, don't get me wrong. Both Valtacunya and East End have 12 players advancing to the semifinals. the most in UFWJ. So it really does look like a 1-2 battle for gold and silver. But it could come down to that gold medal. Well, likely will come down to that gold medal game tomorrow on Saturday. We'll certainly take a closer look at those playoff rosters, the medal round rosters for Valtacunya and East End. We can take a look at those here momentarily, but very similar breakdown as far as their makeup going into this medal round. Valtacunya is loaded with Canada. They had 5 Canadian forwards, 3 Canadian defensemen, 8 players from Canada. Should be noted, the big news of the day, or the biggest news heading into this game, is we're almost ready for puck drop here. No Ridley Gregg for Canada, as well as Valtacunya. He was player of the game twice in the 4 group stage games, and not only a shutdown center for Canada and logging big ice, big penalty killing time, he was also contributing offensively and really making an impact. So big loss for Canada as well as Valtacunya. Again, they still have Mason McTavish and Connor Bedard and Will Cooley, and they acquired William Dufour as one of their ringers, as well as acquiring Donovan Sabrango, another guy who doesn't put up your standard counting stats, goals, assists from the back end. He's a defender, but he does put up a lot of ice time. He kills penalties for Canada. He's a contributor. They also have Ethan Del Maestro, who plays a depth role, and Carson Lambos, who has been the odd man out and will be the scratch for Canada on defense again today. So when you look at Valtacunya's roster, it's very important for them that Canada has a strong showing today and gets the better of Thomas Suchanek. Again, you see he's only played the 2 games, Canada and USA. He's got a .931 save percentage overall. Dylan Garand at the other end from Anarchia. He's 4-0, 2 goals against average, well over a .900 save percentage. So Garand has been solid for Canada, hasn't been tested a whole lot. Canada hasn't faced the adversity that the Americans did in the quarterfinals. That was the first time a top seed had trailed in the entire tournament all the way through. They got the lead and played with the lead, which Canada has had the advantage of playing with the lead throughout. So if they got down by a goal or two, and I shouldn't say that, I believe Czechia actually scored the first goal in that 5-1 loss on last Saturday. I believe Martin Rysavy opened the scoring on a breakaway goal on Dylan Garand there, and Canada pushed back for the 5-1 victory. So we'll see if that repeats, but certainly Czechia, puck's down. Czechia's got a lot of confidence going into this game, simply because a lot of confidence coming off an upset of the Americans, and some people thought USA-Canada potentially for gold. So you knock off the Americans, you probably feel confident you can knock off anybody. Canada, another big storyline. Obviously, Ridley Gregg being out is big, but they went ahead and shook up the majority of the lines. And we can take a look at Canada's lineup for today. It looks a lot different than it did, throughout the tournament. Most notably, breaking up the pairing of Mason McTavish and Connor Bedard. They were the 1-2 punch on Canada's top line. As you see the updated lines here, Mason McTavish starting this game, Canada's captain, leading goal scorer, 7 goals in this tournament, a really dominant 20-year-old. As Dylan Garand makes the first save of the game, a bit of a tricky backhander off the rush. So good start for Dylan Garand. But Mason McTavish having a whale of a tournament, the front runner for tournament MVP. Although he had a quiet quarterfinal, it was that second line, the only line. Well, I guess one of the only lines that's staying intact for Canada. Kent Johnson of East End with Logan Stankoven and Tyson Forster, who are teammates for Elite Prospectia. But the big news, as Nick Taylor just pointed out here in the chat, is Connor Bedard being dropped to the third line, and not really an offensive line on paper. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this game plays out, but especially today as well as tomorrow, how much ice time and how Dave Cameron manages his lines. Does Connor Bedard sort of become a rover? I know they show Riley Kidney as the 13th forward, but does that kind of turn into Bedard, where if they feel like he's going, then he's up with McTavish? If he's not going, then he's down with Nathan Gaucher and Will Cooley? But the way it worked for Valtacunya, even without Ridley Gregg, still 4 forwards from Canada as Thomas Suchanek squeezes one under the armpit for his first big test. A minute 5 into this game, Canada's first shot was also a tough test and a big save. Looked like Kent Johnson had that opportunity. For East End, they really hope Kent Johnson has his breakout game. Obviously, Logan Stankoven had the the breakout in the quarterfinals. This line was their best line in the quarterfinals, and they get the first quality scoring chance off the stick of Kent Johnson. But East End, Johnson had the Michigan goal, right? The goal of the tournament so far. But he's had so many close calls, and he's been an effective player for Canada. But, being a guy that could be a top 6 forward in the NHL this year, you expect him at one point in this tournament to really dominate and take over. And this could be the game because Canada's going to lean on that line today simply because they're the scoring line that's stuck together. They were the best line on Wednesday. I would expect them to be the best line again, and obviously setting the tone early with that scoring chance from Kent Johnson of East End. Shots on goal count, 0.25 fantasy points. So there's first shot of the game goes to East End, or first shot for Canada anyway. Again, looking at the lineup, Joshua Roy of Can West actually started the tournament with Mason McTavish and Connor Bedard on that top line. He's back up there with McTavish, and then William Dufour, who played primarily with Ridley Gregg throughout the entire tournament, is getting a look alongside McTavish. McTavish and Dufour are both bigger bodies, heavy, hard to play against. Joshua Roy has good size, but he's maybe a little bit more of a finesse playmaker out of the three. So interesting to see how that combination clicks now that Connor Bedard's been bumped off the top line. Bedard's young for this tournament. He could really play 2 more years. He could play in December as well as the following year. We don't expect that. We expect him to be in the NHL the following year, assuming he has a good draft year and becomes the first overall pick. And even though he didn't have a great game in the quarterfinals, he's probably been a top 3 forward for Canada throughout this tournament, start to finish. He's had, big games, so I don't think Connor Bedard will be stuck on the third line forever. And if he is, again, it's a learning experience. He's a young guy. The stakes are getting higher as the medal round goes, and then being responsible defensively is, his line got caught out there a couple times, so maybe they feel Josh Roy and William Dufour, who are out there now with McTavish, are a little better defensively. As Czechia is going to try and keep this line in Canada's zone, which is what was effective for Switzerland in the quarterfinals. Switzerland played this line really tough and largely kept them playing in their own zone, which hard for Bedard and McTavish to generate offense if they're playing defense. So no surprise here. Brennan Othman starting off physical. He's got a couple big hits early. He's been a physical force throughout the tournament, whether he's been on the top line with McTavish at times, or whether he's been down on kind of that bang and crash fourth line where he's lining up today with Zach Ostapchuk of the Vancouver Giants, as well as Ostapchuk, I believe, is with I'd have to double check who has him in UFWJ. I know it's one of those middle of the pack countries, but Elliot Desnoyers finally got on the score sheet. He's with Scoreway. He had a good game. Him and Nathan Gaucher both with Scoreway, as well as Riley Kidney, who draws in. Scoreway all of a sudden has 3 forwards from Team Canada in today's lineup. So the loss for Val Acuna of losing Ridley Gregg was the gain for Scoreway as they try to push up into that, push for silver gold as opposed for settling for bronze, and getting an extra body out there for Team Canada will help as David Yersak steps up with a pretty good collision on Kent Johnson, his future Columbus Blue Jackets teammate. Johnson with another grade A chance here, drop pass. We got a whistle though, not sure if they're saying that was offside or... But yeah, that would have been a grade A chance for Stankoven in the slot and Forster. But as Dean said, strong move to the net after creating the turnover. The new number 1 line for Canada. As we look at the lineup, McTavish, because he's been the MVP of the tournament so far, leading goal scorer, his line still gets put at the top as the captain of the Team Canada. But Dean's right. Production-wise and chemistry-wise, I think you now have to rely on this Johnson, Stankoven, Forster line as the number 1 line for Canada heading into this semifinal against Czechia. That's a little over 4 minutes into a scoreless start. It's been pretty back and forth. Czechia's got some jump today, some pace to their game. Obviously a big confidence boost beating the Americans. And again, looking at the lineup for Canada, the thing that stands out is even without Ridley Gregg, Val Acuna has, a significant presence on Team Canada, including, 2/3 of the top line, McTavish and Dufour, and 2/3 of the third line, which always was the case, but a different 2/3. It used to be Gregg and and Dufour down on that third line. Now it's Cooley and Bedard for Velta-Cunha, but George Batchel and Jope and the Velta-Cunha management team are hoping for a big score in this game, because if not, if Thomas Suchanek keeps this low scoring and then maybe Czechia pulls another upset, lo and behold, then all the attention turns to tonight's game with Finland. And Velta-Cunha did acquire Alexei Hemoselmi. He was the defender of the day from the quarterfinals. Good showing for him in his Velta-Cunha debut as their lone Finn. But that's where the balance of power shifts to East End with 6 Finns. 4 forwards and 2 defenders, and key guys, Ratti, Roni Hervinen, Kasper Samontavel, up and down the list. Kasper Puccio, who's been a top 5 defender heading into the medal round. When we did the recap of the preliminary round, Kasper Puccio was he ranked 5th among all defenders in the tournament for fantasy points, and he had a good quarterfinal. He was, I believe, behind Alexei Hemoselmi. He was either 3rd or 4th, or maybe even 2nd among defenders in the quarterfinal. So Puccio's continued to produce for East End as sort of one of their pleasant surprises. Of course, in this game, they have Olin Zellweger, who's just right there with Puccio as their best defender of the tournament so far. So having Zellweger, Puccio today is big for East End. Again, you can see in the standings, less than 10 points separating Velta-Cunha from East End. So yeah, less than 10 points, 9.5 points separating Velta-Cunha from East End. So this is going to be very exciting, not only today, but all 4 of these countries in the World Juniors are going to play again tomorrow, be it for gold or bronze. They're going to, the matchups will change, but everybody that's left in Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors on rosters gets 2 more games. So very, very important to see, obviously, which games are higher scoring today, but then which games tomorrow. And it doesn't necessarily matter tomorrow whether they're playing for gold or bronze. The fantasy points don't change. There's no multiplier if you're playing for gold or you're playing for bronze. So all in all, it really comes down to, who has the better showing. And sometimes that bronze medal game can get a little out of hand, as Dean mentioned on the medal round preview show, is that sometimes players don't get up for playing for bronze. They're here to win gold, and then bronze becomes more of a shinny game and a higher scoring game, and maybe that impacts how gold plays out here in UFWJ. And you look ahead to tonight, the classic rivalry, Finland against Sweden in the other semifinal. Some would say that's the more exciting semifinal, or the on paper the more of a coin flip for the matchup. Again, I don't want to downplay Czechia too much. Yes, they lost to Canada 5-1 in the group stage. Yes, they gave up 57 shots on goal there. But this is a different Czechia team. They're playing with a lot of confidence. They made no lineup changes for this game from the quarterfinal. Obviously, Suchanek back in goal as he gets rubbed out there a little bit on the side of the net. But he's been great against Canada in the group stage, and even better against the Americans in that quarterfinal upset. So, and again, that obviously changed things. Like I said, you look at Velta-Cunha, they lost 7 players from the United States, including, key guys. Thomas Bordeleau, Matt Coronado, Landon Slaggert up front. Obviously, you lose Luke Hughes on the back end is huge. Tyler Clevin there too. And their only starting goaltender, Caden Mberico. East End doesn't have a starter either. Their only goaltender left is Brett Brochu, who's 3rd for Canada, behind Dylan Grand, who just made another save here. But shots are 4-3 Canada, almost 7 minutes in. So it's the ice isn't tilted in favor of Canada. The Czechs are here to play today, and like I said, they've been getting better as this tournament goes on, and they play with more confidence in front of Thomas Suchanek, obviously. As we see East End center coming in, Michael Goot here of the Everett Silvertips, or played in Everett. He's been undrafted 3 times now. I believe he's an 02, so bit of a surprise to me. I had him ranked again this year. He hasn't had a great tournament offensively, but he's a great two-way player, and he's been impactful for East End and Czechia. And again, when the Americans were knocked out and Velta-Cunha suffered that big blow, and it was a big blow, as Kent Johnson with a great chance, Canada pressing around the crease here. This line, again, as Dean said, this is the new #1 line, and they're buzzing as Kent Johnson just squeaks one through Suchanek, but somehow stayed out. But again, when the Americans lost out, when you look at the players in UFWJ that are advancing to the semifinals, Velta Cunha lost 7 players, and I mentioned those big names: Bordalo, Hughes, Emberico, Coronado, who they acquired as a ringer before the trade deadline. All these guys are missing from Velta Cunha. East End, on the other hand, the only player they lost was Charlie Strammel, young guy like Bedard for the 2023 draft. He was used sparingly for the U.S., so no key losses for East End out of that U.S. upset. And East End has, David Svozil, not David Svozil. David Svozel's the younger brother. Our good scout, Ash Glover of the Medicine Hat Tigers, scouts for Wise Guys Prospects here in UFFS, just registered David Svozil the other day on the UFFS platform. I believe he's a 2024 eligible defenseman. So not this coming year's draft, but the following year. But his older brother, Stanislav Svozil, teammate of Connor Bedard in Regina as an import in the WHL, and another Columbus Blue Jackets draft pick. As mentioned, they have David Jurasek and Stanislav Svozil, arguably the 2 best Czechia defenders in this tournament, are both Columbus Blue Jackets prospects. But Svozil plays for East End in UFWJ, as does Michael Gut. So they lost Charlie Strammel, but they got to keep Gut and Svozil, which is a big gain for East End. And when I look at the lineups on the other side, as I'm checking here just to make sure I got the semifinal lineups right. One sec here. For Velta Cunha. Yeah, so I mean, when you look at these lineups side by side, it's very close, as Forster just couldn't quite poke that home at the side of the net when Johnson's went off nice play off the skate, but couldn't quite get it to the stick. As again, that line's buzzing for Canada early. That new top line of Kent Johnson at East End and the elite Prospectia teammates Logan Stankoven and Tyson Forster. Where was I going with that? Yeah, so as far as Czechia having the upset and the impact on UFWJ and making it that much more interesting going into these final 2 days of games, semifinals and medal games, is Velta Cunha lost 7 American players, and they have 0 Czechia players. So they were down -7. Velta Cunha, as mentioned, have 2 fairly impactful Czechs in Svozil and Gut, and their only loss was Strammel. So that upset gave East End 1 extra player, 2 versus 1 going into the semifinals, and Velta Cunha is down 7-0. So what a swing, what a momentum swing that upset was for UFWJ purposes, as Alex LeBlanc's joining us here. Go, Larry, go. Thanks, Alex. This should be a great game, as we're seeing, almost halfway through the first period. Shots are only 5-4. Czechia's hanging right in there with Thomas Suchanek in goal. Republic of the Seven Seas. Again, you got 10 countries, only 4 starting goaltenders left in the tournament. Or as of today, only 4 goaltenders playing. 2 of them play for Republic of the Seven Seas. They have Thomas Suchanek, who's now just made his 6th straight save to start this game. But they stuck with their number 1 guy, as they've done all tournament, Levi Merilainen. Finland's starting goaltender. Hard not to go with Finland's goaltender. I mean, you expect Finland has, again, not to, downplay Czechia's potential for an upset, but Finland on paper has better odds at getting the win, which is 3 fantasy points than Czechia. But again, Thomas Suchanek, if he's bringing in 50 saves again today, like he did in 52 saves in the group stage matchup with Canada, those fantasy points at 25 or 0.25 fantasy points per save, that adds up in a hurry. And of course, you lose minus 0.5 fantasy points for a goal against. But if you make 50 saves and you lose 4-2, that's probably going to produce you as, wow, Thomas Suchanek making amazing save after amazing save before Kent Johnson of East End strikes. And we've been talking about this line all game. I think they've had 4 or 5 shifts and they've been in the O-zone buzzing. And finally, after a massive save from Thomas Suchanek, rebound in the slot, Kent Johnson of East End opens the scoring. So you see a 10-point gap. While a goal is 2.5 fantasy points, a shot is, goal is 2.5 fantasy points, and a shot is 0.25. So Massive save on Tyson Forster by Suchanek, but again, loose puck. Defensemen don't clean up the slot, and the second chance pops out to Kent Johnson, and what a goal for him and for this line to just keep clicking for Canada. 1-0 Canada midway through the first period. Almost exactly midway through the first period. 10:04 is the time of the goal. Kent Johnson will get the goal. Not sure what the assists will be there, if it's unassisted because the Czech defender played it, or if they give out the assists like Halloween candy like they always do in the NHL. In that case, obviously Tyson Forster would get one, and whoever set Forster up there, I'm not sure if that was Stankoven or somebody else, but Canada pressing again here on this follow-up shift as Zach Ostapchuk gets an opportunity. Somebody Suchanek would know well from the Western League. He's an import for the Tri-City Americans, so goaltender who faced a ton of rubber in Tri-City, so he's no stranger to 50-plus shots a night, and he showed well with a high shot volume throughout this tournament. But definitely Dean Millard's pumped to see the breakthrough for Kent Johnson of East End. And again, closing that gap. Like I said, you get 2.5 fantasy points for the goal. You get the shot as another point, 2.5 for the goal, 0.25 for the shot. So you're at 2.75 fantasy points right there. You're 10 back, and I think Johnson has 3 or 4 shots in this first period. So this might be already within potentially 5 fantasy points in the race for the battle for gold, or the slugfest for gold and the battle for bronze, however you want to say it in the UFWJ standings. Alex LeBlanc's with us from Monstopia. Without selling, Monstopia may have made a run at bronze. They did trade away Matt Coronado and William Dufour, 2 guys that had big impacts for Valtacunya before, obviously, Coronado was eliminated, but he scored a couple goals for Valtacunya, put up, I think, 17, 18 fantasy points. So if Monstopia had those points, they'd be, within 30 or 20 points of bronze, and then Dufour's also put up 10 plus. So potentially, although in Monstopia's defense, in return they got Peter Hauser from Czechia, and Peter Hauser scored a goal in that quarterfinal, and he's still playing, and Matt Coronado's out, and Matt Coronado's a 2002, as is Dufour. Peter Hauser's a 2003, so he will be back in that December tournament for Czechia with all this experience. So as you see, Peter Hauser's right here in this scrum. As this line, again, this line seems like, now the shots are 11-4 in favor of Canada. That's 6 straight shots for Canada, and I think 5 of them have come from this line, as Stankoven, Johnson, and Forster. Looks like the Czechia defenders have no answer for them, and you can really tell Kent Johnson is around it tonight. Big game player, now we're playing for a chance to go for gold, and he knows that this line is going to be relied heavily on for offense because they have the chemistry throughout the tournament. When they split up McTavish and Bedard, and the rest of the lines are trying to get their feet under them in this first period, it was important that this line led the way as they did in the quarterfinals, and so far so good for Kent Johnson opening the scoring for East End midway through this first period. And there you see Suchanek, 3.87 goals against for Tri-City, but a .901 save percentage. And again, I'm sure, in the WHL, you're always playing back-to-backs and 3 and 4, and, or 3 and 3 a lot of the times on the weekend, Friday, Saturday nights, and Sunday late afternoon games. That's a lot of hockey, and he was a workhorse for the Tri-City Americans. So he's no stranger to seeing a lot of rubber. He's going to see a lot today and likely again tomorrow if they stick with him for the medal game, be it gold or bronze. But again, going back to Republic of the Seven Seas, that goaltending decision with 10 countries and only 4 goaltenders going into this Final Four. As mentioned, Dylan Garand of Anarchia, Jesper Wallstad of Sweden, probably the favorite to be top goaltender in the tournament. The one goaltender who really stands out is the guy that can shut the door and steal a game. And look at December for a prime example. 48 save shutout for Jesper Wallstad back in December, the tournament that was shut down. That was worth 17.00, 17 full fantasy points for Monstopia back in December. So Wallstad has that game-breaking potential as a goaltender, first-round NHL draft pick. We look at Yaroslav Askarov, Spencer Knight, all these big top-end goaltenders coming into the NHL, with Sebastian Cossa as actually the backup for Canada, but Jesper Wallsted's in that group too. Minnesota Wild prospect for Monstopia. He'll be backstopping Sweden tonight against the starter that Republic of the Seven Seas went with, which is Levi Merilainen of Finland over Thomas Suchanek of Czechia. And again, that's been a bit of a tough decision because the shot volume that Suchanek's facing tends to almost offset the win bonus. You get 12 saves, you're at 3 fantasy points, right? So if you're getting 50-some, you're already up in that 10-plus fantasy points minus your goals against. So if you keep it under 5 goals against, then you're putting up over 40 saves. You're getting somewhere in that same range as a 25-30 save, 4-3, 3-2 type wins. So it kind of evens out, but we'll see, because Thomas Suchanek twice has been benched by Republic of the Seven Seas, and against Canada in the group stage, and then against the Americans in the quarterfinals. Both times he was the goaltender of the day and put up the better point total compared to the starter that they went with. But again, personally speaking, you almost want to go with your number one guy. And we've seen the flip side of that in this tournament. You look back at Velta, and again, they got a 10-point lead. That could be a 15-point lead. And those 5 points could prove crucial, because there's a big chance off the rush for the Czechs. That might have been Michael Gut there of East End. Almost made it 1-1. Almost going... Oh, no, that's Jakub Kos. I believe that might be UCAN Republic, I think, has him. But where was I going with that? Velta goaltending decision. Going back to that Saturday, they made the decision to start the Finnish goaltender, Juha Jakola, instead of Caden Mbereko on the Saturday. And the reason that is Finland was playing Slovakia, looked like, guaranteed win day or strong chance of a win. Finland won 9-3, but Slovakia didn't muster too many shots. And Mbereko came out and beat Sweden 3-2 in the night game. And Sweden pushed in that third period. The shots ended up close. And Mbereko, they both got the 3 points for the win, but Mbereko ended up at 9 fantasy points to, I think, 4.5 for Jakola. And that was one where, George called it a gamble for Valtakunya, but it was probably the safe play to take the win bonus from Finland because they were expected to beat Slovakia, whereas bigger question mark on what happens with USA, Sweden, and Mbereko. But they didn't start their number one guy, their goaltender that they previously acquired via trade from Midgard early on in the tournament. They ended up only getting 2 starts out of Mbereko. The way it worked out, they got 1 win and they got the quarterfinal loss. The other start, they benched Mbereko in favor of Jakola, and that kind of backfired. So do you start your number one and stick with your number one guy, your expected winner, in that case Mbereko, in this case for Republic of the Seven Seas, Levi Merilainen, or do you roll the dice on the goaltender that might lose but might face enough shots, make enough saves to get more fantasy points at a loss than your winning goaltender from the win bonus? So it's very interesting that way. And Republic of the Seven Seas so far has went with their number one guy, Levi Merilainen, both in the quarterfinals as well as today in the semifinals. So we'll see Merilainen versus Wallstad tonight in the 8 p.m. Eastern semifinal. I don't want to call it the big game today because these are both big games, but the game that has more uncertainty or the betting odds-wise, a closer betting line as far as Sweden versus Finland. And again, Merilainen versus Jesper Wallstad. Great goaltending matchup tonight between Republic of the Seven Seas and Monstopia and UFWJ. As Monstopia again tries to hang around in the medal race, but again, because they've turned into a bit of a cellar with Coronado and Dufour, as Alex says here, the winter tournament will be fun to see whose protected players start stepping up. And isn't that true? Monstopia in this tournament actually had Jonathan Lekaramaki promoted from the protected list to the active roster. Again, Dynasty League, 25-man active roster, but all these countries in UFWJ also drafted a 5-man protected list for future tournaments. And Monstopia is reaping the benefits already. They got Jonathan Lekkerimäki going tonight for Sweden. He could play in 3 World Juniors. And then obviously they also would have had Frank Nazar from their protected list to their active roster. He was the final forward cut for the Americans. He, on the eve of the tournament. So that close to having, 2 players promoted from their protected list between December and the summer tournament. So the 2.0 tournament. I mentioned Charlie Strammel was upset. He was part of the upset. He was lost for East End. He's one of their casualties, or their only casualty when the Americans were upset by Czechia. He was the 3rd player for this summer tournament that was promoted from a protected list. So East End benefited from their protected list with Charlie Strammel moving up to the active roster and getting this early taste of World Junior experience prior to the December tournament. And Monstopia had Jonathan Lekkerimäki here as well. So it'll be interesting, like Alex said, to see, East End also has a guy like Adam Fantilli. Is he there at Christmas? What kind of role does he play? And so the way this works as a dynasty league, as 5 minutes remaining, 5.5 left in the first period. Here's this Canada line again, and there looks like, do we have another goal? Oh, Stankoven, that was off the back of the net. Looked like that went under the bar. But Czechia ices it. But again, this new look, or not new look, it's the same look, but this new top line, if you will, for Canada. They're dominating this first period. Czechia's had no answer for Kent Johnson, Logan Stankoven, and Tyson Forster. And that was, the outside of the net. But close call for Stankoven, who was the player of the game for Canada. Or did that go through the net, or what happened there? They're looking at it. No, I'm pretty sure that was just off the outside with a bit of a weird bounce. But Stankoven, player of the game, the quarterfinal win over Switzerland. And Forster's been on this. I think he's scored in 3 straight games now, and he's been feeling it. He's been hot around the net. And now tonight we see the breakthrough from Kent Johnson opening the scoring for Canada in this semifinal against Czechia. And yeah, Dean says it was close. It tricked the crowd. Tricked me on the replay, just the way the net bulged, but clearly stayed out as Canada breaks back in. Here's another chance. That would have been Bedard lingering. Now he's got to get on that back check. See, this is where he's got to, fully commit to the 200-foot game now that he's playing this third-line role. Show some defensive responsibility. Don't flee the zone here. Stay back. Get set up. Now he's going on offense, but... And here he comes. He's getting a chance here off the rush. Connor Bedard, big shot, and he scores. Armpit on Suchanek. Suchanek won't like this goal. Snuck it under the glove, armpit. I think Suchanek thought he was going bar down like he did the other day. And Bedard just put it above the pad under the dreaded armpit goal for a goalie. You never want that. But here you see Bedard. Craig Button said it. He barely ever has 2 bad games or 2 ineffective games in a row, while William Dufour finds Bedard on the far side, gets behind Ellis Check, the defenseman, and snaps one under the armpit on Thomas Suchanek. So Connor Bedard makes his impact in a bit of a comeback performance after a down game in the quarterfinals. He's on the board early in this semifinal, 2-0 Canada, thanks to Connor Bedard of Valtacunya. So East End gets the first goal of the game. Valtacunya fires back thanks to Connor Bedard. I believe that was William Dufour with the cross-ice pass. So that's going to be a big goal for Valtacunya. You get the goal and you get the assist, maybe even multiple assists. So definitely Valtacunya, George Batchel's loving that pushback from his boys. And the response from Connor Bedard after being dropped to the third line. He still finds a way to make an offensive impact and score a goal in this game as Canada breaks out again. That's that big Will Coulian off the rush. I keep getting 25 and 27 mixed up here, but I think that's Cooley out there. But just a great start for Canada. Now 14-7 are the shots on goal. 4 minutes remaining in the first period. 2-0 Canada. Goals from Kent Johnson of East End and Connor Bedard of Valtacunya. So yeah, quite the start for Team Canada. Heavy favorites going in this game, having already won the group stage matchup with Czechia 5-1. Looks like we're seeing a somewhat similar push for Canada in the second half of this first period, because the first half, the shots were 5-4, bit of back and forth. That Kent Johnson line tilted the ice. 3-4 straight shifts they were dominant, and now the rest of Canada's lines have their legs under them. They're starting to feel the flow, and now Canada's attacking in waves. As that goal was assisted by Nathan Gaucher of Scoreway, as well as Will Cooley of Veltacuna. So Veltacuna wasn't William before, it was Cooley, but Veltacuna now has a goal and an assist there, so that's 5 fantasy points plus the shot. So Veltacuna's moving on up again as far as fending off East End in this first period. But yeah, great start for Canada and a great, bounce back for Connor Bedard. And again, Craig Button said it. He doesn't have too many back-to-back bad games. And I know Dean Millard actually went to a game in Regina when he was out there launching the Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball, UFLB. They went to a game. And it was against Brandon, Dean's hometown team. And that was a rare night in the WHL where Connor Bedard was held off the score sheet. And I think the next game out, he had 4 goals or something. I mean, he first 16-year-old to score 50 goals in the WHL, 100 points. And, his final game of the regular season had like 6 points to get to that 100 mark. But just a great season for Bedard. Great tournament here, as that's his 5th goal of the tournament. I mean, what more can you want from a kid that just turned 17 a few weeks ago? There are a number of 2023 draft eligible players in this tournament. There was, as mentioned, Charlie Stramel. There was Dalibor Dvorsky for Slovakia, but none of them have had near the impact to sometimes you come out of these tournaments, these best-on-best international showcases, and you're saying, wow, that guy's challenging number one. Juraj Slafkovsky is right there with Shane Wright, or maybe now we need to talk about Slafkovsky ahead of Wright, or whatever the case. But for Bedard in this showcase, he's been, head and shoulders better than the competition. Of course, that comes with the disclaimer that Russia is not here. And if Russia were here, Matvei Mishkov, expected to be the number 2 overall pick, or the challenger to the number 1 overall pick based on skill and talent, not on passport and contract in Russia, just based on talent, he would be right there with Bedard. Russia's not here, so you don't have that comparable. We mentioned Adam Fantilli on East End's protected list. See what he can do in December. He's a guy that could potentially challenge. And of course, we just had the Hlinka Gretzky Cup where Canada was dominant and won. Guys like Braden Yeager and Zach Benson and Cal Ritchie, and the list goes on. This 2023 draft class for Canada is awesome, and they won that tournament convincingly without Connor Bedard. I mean, he could have been in that Hlinka Gretzky Cup. That's his best on best age class, and Canada smoked the competition without Bedard. But that's just an awesome class. Denny Gautier's son, I want to say his name's Ethan Gauthier, out of the Q. He had a huge tournament to really put himself into that top 10 conversation out of Canada for the 2023 draft class. And again, the UFFS scouts, we're always scouting, and we will be putting out preliminary draft rankings, likely October, November, kind of give the CHL, the Canadian Hockey League, and the USHL that 10-game window to evaluate their league play, and then put out the preliminary rankings. Others have already put theirs out following the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. A lot of things are fresh in the minds at that tournament, but Sweden had a guy like Otto Stenberg who stood out there. They also have a guy like Leo Carlsson back in Sweden who could be a top 10 guy. And the big question mark will be Mishkov, who obviously got hurt in the KHL in a big hit from Alexei Yemelin, former Montreal Canadian hard hitter. Again, that's a man versus a boy in that collision. And Mishkov, I'm not sure what the injury was, shoulder, knee, but anyway, he's out for a couple months, won't be back before Christmas. So normally you'd be thinking, Mishkov's going to get back in time for the World Juniors. Well, Russia won't be there in December again. And then at some point, is it out of sight, out of mind, where scouts are seeing so much of Bedard and Fantilli that they start to forget about Mishkov or forget how good he could be in these best-on-best events? I don't think so. I think Mishkov's established himself in the previous couple of years to be a generational talent out of Russia, but he does have a lengthy contract. I believe he's got 3 seasons left in Russia that he's locked into for a contract. So kind of like the Kirill Kaprizov type situation for Minnesota, there could be a I mean, he won't be waiting on until he's 24, but he might be 21 or 22 before he comes to the NHL, whereas Bedard obviously will be in the NHL as an 18-year-old. He'll have just turned 18. He'll be in the NHL. Next September, he'll be gearing up for whoever's fortunate enough to draft them. Whoever is be bad for Bedard will end up winning that lottery and likely getting Bedard first overall, and he'll be in the NHL next year. And I wouldn't expect to see him at next year's World Juniors, just because I think he'll be an impact player as an NHL rookie. And unless he's struggling and needs a confidence boost, maybe they send him back. But he's going to play in December. I mean, when you take away McTavish and all these other 2002 born guys, Bedard's going to be the probably heads and shoulders above everybody in December as far as the MVP goes. Although he'll have competition from a guy like Logan Cooley of Midgard, who third overall pick this year ahead of Shane Wright. Be interesting to see if Wright or Slavkovsky or Simon Nemeth, the top 3 picks this year's draft, end up at the December tournament. None of those 3 are here this summer. But Cooley's looked great. I mean, I like Logan Cooley, but this tournament, I've been very, very impressed with Logan Cooley. He hasn't put up a ton of points. Every time I watched the Americans, he was one of their best players and really dynamic offensively, but plays with a bit of jam too. So I think I'm more impressed with Logan Cooley now than I was heading into the draft, even though I had him at third overall there as well. But I really think Logan Cooley's going to have a big tournament come December for the Americans. And obviously when you get upset in the quarterfinals, you're coming back with a vengeance. So look out for Team USA in December. They were the defending gold medalists from 2001 and then got upset in the quarterfinals. So they will be coming in hot and hungry come December. But right now it's Canada 2-0 heading into the first intermission. Goals from Kent Johnson of East End as well as Connor Bedard of Altacunha. So the top 2 countries in Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors are on the board with Canada up 2-0 through the first period on Czechia. And again, doubling them in shots and really tilting the ice in the second half of that first period, thanks in large part to that new top line with Kent Johnson of East End, as well as the Elite Prospectia teammates Logan Stankoven and Tyson Forster. They were the best line in the quarterfinals and by far the best line in that first period of the semifinal. Forster was given an assist on the first goal, Dean has noted here. So you got Tyson Forster with Kent Johnson and combining on that first goal. So Elite Prospectia, they're in 9th place, but again, 8th place. What is that? 75 points back. So that's going to be a tough gap to close on Scoreway. Scoreway obviously got an assist in that first period as well from Nathan Gaucher, who's been getting more ice time without Ridley Gregg. He's kind of stepped in as that third-line center now, so which is Nathan Gaucher's role in the, well, not third-line center. He's a first-line center in the queue, but he's a two-way force. When he was drafted, that's what you see in Nathan Gaucher, is the guy that he's maybe a Ryan O'Reilly type as an absolute peak prime career guy, but more likely a lesser version of that as a real two-way, good-sized shutdown center. Nazem Kadri comes to mind, something like that, right? That's the kind of player. Kadri might have a little bit more offense than Gaucher, but Gaucher produced well in the queue with a guy like Zachary Bolduc, who almost had a 100-point season. I think he stopped on 99 points. Again, somebody that Duckman's domination is Dean Millard's UFWJ franchise is really high on Zach Bolduc, but they're teammates with Nathan Gaucher, and Gaucher, he's just dominant on faceoffs, great on shutdown, great defensive awareness. So losing Ridley Gregg's a big loss, but having a guy like Nathan Gaucher, who was kind of going between wing and center on that fourth line, all of a sudden he moves up to third line center, and his line scored a goal. He gets Connor Bedard as one of his wingers. That's a nice bonus for a bigger role for Nathan Gaucher. He's helped set up Bedard and the big 2-0 goal for Canada. And again, that helps Scoreway stay in that bronze medal position as we enter, we're one period down. We got 5 periods to go today and then 6 periods tomorrow. And that's all for Ultimate Fantasy World Junior. Short but sweet tournament. And it has been a sweet tournament. generally speaking, the top three have been battling it out from early on. The first couple days they emerged as the front runners, but it'll be interesting, like Alex said, come December, who benefits more from their protected list, because the way, and again, I was going to explain that, the way this works, Dynasty League, so 25-man roster, 5-man protected list, those were drafted in that inaugural draft back in December. 5-man protected list, there's guys like Macklin, Celebrini, Cole Eiserman. I mean, these are guys that aren't going to play in the World Juniors for 3 or 4 years. They're young 14, 15-year-old guys all the way out now in December. Somebody in December is going to select Michael Misa on their protected list for the Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors. That's how far out we'll be going to the 2020, what is that, 2027? Where am I at? 2023, 2024, 2025, 2025 draft eligibles will be available in the December UFWJ annual draft to fill those. So again, Monstopia graduates Jonathan Lekarmaki. Well, now they have an open spot on their protected list to fill in that December draft. Who do you take? Do you come out in the first round and take a guy that's going to be at that December tournament as an impact player, or do you fill your protected list spot with a Michael Misa? So very interesting strategy-wise when you make it a dynasty league for the World Juniors, something that doesn't exist anywhere else. But there will be a lot of players moving up. I know I keep looking back at East End, their protected list, and you see guys like Zach Dean and Zachary Larehu, the two Zachs out of the queue. They could be on that December team. They'll be 19 years old and probably having great starts to their QMJHL season. So, it'll be interesting. I think Frank Nazar obviously will be there for the Americans. He was almost there here, and they're going to lose a half dozen 2002 born forwards. So Nazar is going to be a go-to guy with Logan Cooley, and so that'll be a big boost for Monstopia. And again, with trading draft picks, there were a few trades involving draft picks. Monstopia acquired a first-round pick from Velta Cunha in that Coronado Dufour deal. So now, come December, Monstopia is going to have 2 picks in the top 10, and Velta Cunha, if they win this, their first pick's going to be 30th overall. So out of all those new players that'll be at the World Juniors in December that aren't already on protected lists or returning from active rosters, there'll probably be 100 new players to choose from, as well as filling protected list spots. Velta Cunha won't pick likely, 29th or 30th overall, depending on which one it'll be. But that's going to be a long wait for George Batchel when you see the top 29 players that'll be available in December. But if they win gold here tomorrow, or we'll find out Sunday who wins gold, I guess. But if they win gold out of these medal round games, and we will have a UFWJ recap show on Sunday as well. I'll do another UFWJ watch party for the gold medal game tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. And then Sunday, I believe we're going to go at 7 p.m. Eastern for the UFWJ recap show. Myself and Dean Millard will be crowning. Maybe we'll have on the GM or it might be Dean Millard, but we'll likely have on somebody from maybe Craig Button can join us if East End prevails, but have somebody on as a guest from the championship UFWJ gold medalist country and really recap the tournament. We'll also hand out the player awards, the tournament MVP, top goaltender, top forward, and top goaltender. We might not have the tournament MVP yet because the 10 countries will vote on that award after the gold medal game on Saturday. Maybe we'll make the deadline for voting prior to our live show on Sunday so we can reveal the tournament MVP as part of that recap show. That'd be great. If everybody votes Saturday night, Sunday morning, we can get that tournament MVP in with a nice graphic. And then obviously the champions of UFWJ are getting gold medals for their management staff, their ownership group. Trophy Smack, who's been a great partner for Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports, they're in the process of making those medals. We hope to have them in the hands of the UFWJ champions within the next few weeks anyway, but before the NHL season starts, they'll have their gold medals. So very exciting to see. You'll likely have your flag, your country name, the year, and then a UFFS logo and the UFWJ logos. With the design that Andrea Karandik's working on for the medals, I think will will really pop. And again, that's such a collector's item. So I can tell Dean Millard and George Batchel that they're watching along. They're excited just hearing the medals as well. I mean, the prize money is great. Getting the score coin's awesome, especially when you got a a UFHL franchise. You got that helps that operating budget. You don't have an entry fee then for the December tournament either, because your entry fee will come off of your winnings. So I mean, all in all, winning the score coin's great, but that medal is the real bragging rights. The real prize at the end of the day will be the UFWJ gold medals from Trophy Smack. So can't wait to see those around the neck of the UFWJ champions. Alex here again, just catching up on Alex's comment. He says, picked up Connor Geekie from Valthacunia in that trade for William Dufour and Matt Coronado. Connor Geekie came back, so that filled that protected list spot for now. Again, if Frank Nazar is on the Americans roster, active roster going into that draft in December, which he obviously will be, then there's going to be another open spot for Monstopi on the protected list. So after this tournament, we'll remove all the 2002 born players. We'll put back on all the reserve list players in case they're back in December. And so the one thing to note, obviously all 2002 born players are done after this tournament. They're not eligible for December. And with Russia not welcome back in December, all the 2003 born Russians, unfortunately, are also done. They won't get to play in the World Juniors. And then it'll be a matter of, I know there's going to be relegation in December. It'll be a matter of whether Russia and Belarus are welcome back in 2024. If they are, then anybody that is drafting way out with 2004 born, this year's draft class Russians, guys like Ivan Miroshnichenko, who I know is on East End's protected list. I think I've named every prospect on their protected list now, but he would certainly be a guy that if Russia's welcome back in 2024, he would be then called up to their active roster that year. So, but the Russians are all kind of in limbo right now. We're not sure what kind of the way things will evolve in the world and the war situation, whether or not IIHF will reinstate Russia. So for now, the Russians on the protected list are question marks, but maybe we'll take a look at the protected list here during this first intermission, because it is always really cool to check those out. So bear with me, because I think I have to go back a ways to find the protected lists. Actually, you know what? I think I got them linked in the... Here's all the countries with their flags, which is awesome. But I think I have them linked in this preview. There we go. Look back at the December rosters. This will show us the protected lists coming out of that draft in December. And again, unfortunately, we only got 3 days of gameplay in December. It was awesome. It was a hit. It was probably more of a hit at Christmas, because all eyes are on the World Juniors. And now it's summer and people are doing the lake and the cabin and the beach and everything else, right? Your kids are playing outdoor sports. It's the final week or two before back to school. People are still doing holidays. So the hardcores are here. Great to have Alex, Dean, some of our UFFS community tuning into the UFWJ watch party. But the average, as you see by the attendance in Edmonton, a little bit better again today, but the average attendance for this tournament's been very low just because it's a summer tournament. But the UFWJ was a hit at Christmas, even though we only got 3 days in. And again, I hope it's delivering, filling the void for the hardcores, especially as some sort of fantasy hockey in the summer to get excited about. But here we'll take a look at the protected lists. So yeah, there we go. So we should be able to see those. Yeah, there we go. So looking at these protected lists, starting with Republic of the Seven Seas, they had the first pick in every round in December, as well as the supplementary draft here this summer in August. Of course, Republic of the Seven Seas decimated. They had Matvei Mishkov. They took Matvei Mishkov first overall in December ahead of Connor Bedard, who went second overall to Valthacunia. The reason those young guys went first overall, Dynasty League. You could have had, especially with Mishkov in a 3-year contract, he could have played 4 World Juniors, or could have possibly played 4 World Juniors for Republic of the Seven Seas. Now they'll be lucky if they get 1 or 2 out of him. Probably only 1, I guess, because again, the way his contract works in Russia, they might get 2 out of him. They won't get December, but they might get the next 2, his 18 and 19-year-old years potentially. But you look at their protected list, Kasper Halttunen. We were talking about guys that stood out at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. He was Finland's best forward. Craig Button was raving about Kasper Halttunen as the next big Finn. He won't be there in December. That would be surprising likely. He might be. I shouldn't say that. He's a 2003 draft eligible. Finland's going to lose some guys from this medal contending team. Atu Räty, Roni Hirvonen, some of those 2002 guys. Maybe a guy like Kasper Halttunen. Even though it's a 19-year-old tournament, he'll be 18. He might step in and play a big role. He was their best player at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, other than maybe defenseman Aaron Kiviharju, who we'll get to. But Halttunen, forward-wise, was their best player. Otto Stenberg was the best player for Sweden at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. And no surprise, Jeff Ray and Mick Portoni, the co-GMs for Republic of the Seven Seas, they're based in Europe. They know the European talent better than anyone in UFFS, and they're experts on these prospects. They've been watching them for a few years. They're just starting to become known quantities in North America. But Kasper Halttunen and Otto Stenberg are going to be big-time impact players for Republic of the Seven Seas in the years to come, potentially starting in December. One guy who we know is going to have an impact in December is Noah Ostlund, Buffalo first-round pick. Very surprising that he wasn't here this summer. Sweden only brought 13 forwards instead of 14. They only rostered 24 players instead of the max 25-player roster with 13 forwards. Ironically, one UFWJ franchise or country also had to only have 13 forwards. Well, guess which country that was? Republic of the Seven Seas. And had they brought Noah Ostlund to the World Juniors and as their 14th forward, he was the obvious choice because they did add his teammates Liam Holmgren and Jonathan Lekaramäki. So it just made sense that Ostlund would have been the 14th forward. Had he come, Republic of the Seven Seas would have also had 14 forwards because there you see Noah Ostlund leading the way on their protected list as a guy who, Stenberg's great, Halttunen's great. They're a little bit younger. Noah Ostlund is the one guy that's going to step in and be a real impact player come December for Republic of the Seven Seas. Sergei Ivanov, Russian goaltender, question mark. He drafted or draft eligible this year in 2022. Does he ever play in Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors? Or is he a guy that maybe gets released because of the uncertainty surrounding Russia? But again, if they're back in 2024, you can almost guarantee Ivanov will be their starter that year. So might be worth retaining him. Otto Salin, Finnish defenseman, drafted this year. Didn't have a great World Under-18 tournament. Draft stock fell a little bit because of that. But he's a guy that one of Finland's more promising young defensemen who will be there in December most likely. Moving over to Valtakunya, we mentioned Connor Geekie traded to Monstopia. So he's actually on Monstopia's protected list now. But they went young. They got Cole Iserman and Macklin Celebrini. Those guys are not going to be there in December for sure. But that following December, leading into their 24 NHL draft, they're the 2024 class. Is that right? Trying to remember here who we got. I don't want to butcher that. I think are they 20? Yeah, they're 2024 draft class. My apologies. They're battling with a guy like Aaron Kiviharju for first overall. Those are probably the top 3 right now for 2024. Iserman, Celebrini, and Kiviharju. But 2 impact forwards. Not this December, maybe next December, and surely the December after during their draft year. Iserman and Celebrini will be a 1-2 punch, much like Bedard and McTavish, although Iserman's American and Celebrini's Canadian. But still, I guess like McTavish and Thomas Bordeleau are this year for Valtakunya. Iserman will be the new Bordeleau and Celebrini will be the new McTavish for Valtakunya a couple of years down the road. Braden Yeager, again, one of the better Canadian forwards at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. He could potentially make that team in December. But again, being a 19-year-old tournament and a lot of good 19-year-olds, he might have to wait one more year as well to make the World Juniors. But he'll be in the conversation, no doubt about it. 30 goal scorer in the WHL for Moose Jaw. as a 16-year-old. So Braden Yeager, great Holinka tournament. He's in the conversation. Quentin Musty, last but not least on Valtacuna's protected list. He, as the second period's about to get going here, I'm a little slow recapping these protected lists, but probably of interest for anybody that's not familiar with UFWJ. So as the second period gets underway, I'll keep you posted on the highlights, but I'll also, as holy close call right off the bat for Czechia on this first shift. Wow, backdoor chance, and then a hard shot from David Jurasek in the high slot. Big save by Dylan Garand, keeps it 2-0. Shots are 15-8 for Canada, but 14 seconds into the second period, a big start. That was Jan Misak, the captain for Czechia on the doorstep. Just missed on putting that one away for scoreway. And then David Jurasek, another player who's going to be an impact guy for Monstopia in December, assuming he doesn't make the Columbus Blue Jackets. So Misak just missed putting that away, and then Jurasek steps in basically from the hash marks and rips a slapper that Grand makes a big save on for Anarchia. He hasn't been overly busy, 8 shots, but a couple big saves for Dylan Garand, and he's 4-0 in the tournament and looking to go 5-0 for Anarchia today, and that's their best chance at making a medal push, is having Canada win 2 more games and get a lot of fantasy points from their goaltenders. With some of the other medal contenders, all 3 of the current medal countries, Valtacuna, East End, and Scoreway, have no goaltenders left that are going to play in these semifinals and medal games. So as far as goaltending, bonus points from goaltenders, Anarchia could make up, 10 points a game, potentially 20 points right there. They could gain just off goaltenders that the current medal countries don't have. But Quentin Musty back on the protected list here. American forward, plays for Sudbury in the OHL. He had a up and down Holinka tournament. He had some wow moments, but also some head scratching moments, and the U.S. didn't have a strong showing there. They lost in the quarterfinals here in the World Juniors. They didn't have a great showing in the Holinka Gretzky Cup. They were eliminated early there as well. Didn't make the semis, I believe, or certainly didn't make the final. But Quentin Musty, like I said, he had some impressive moments and some not so impressive moments at the Holinka Gretzky Cup. So he'll be trying to establish himself as a top 15 pick in next year's NHL draft. East End, we've kind of talked about their entire protected list. Adam Fantilli, again, potential impact player for Canada at the Christmas tournament in his draft year. If he makes it, Lareju and Dean are guys that are older, a year older than obviously Fantilli and Bedard, so they're going to be likely to make Team Canada, or more likely. Ivan Miroshnichenko, the wait continues with the uncertainty in Russia, and Charlie Stramel, who was promoted to their active roster for this tournament, got some good experience in the World Juniors, and he'll become, again, a bigger role for USA in December with all their 2002 players gone. Monstopia, who Alex LeBlanc, they acquired Connor Geekie. Jonathan Lekaramaki, as mentioned, moved up to their active roster. But you look at this country, and UFWJ is another country that's really going to benefit from that protected list. I think Frank Nazar being the last cut for USA in the summer, you could say he's a lock probably for a top 6 role come December. So him and Lekaramaki are up. Connor Geekie kind of on the bubble for Canada in December, but potential to make that team as a drafted player, first rounder. Goaltender, Ben Gaudreau, Garand and Kosa are both O2s. They're not, and so is Brett Brochu. So all 3 Canadian goaltenders from this summer tournament won't be back in December. So when you think Dynasty League, well, there you go. You draft a future Canadian goaltender. And Ben Gaudreau's been great at the Under-18 Worlds. I believe he played at the Holinka Gretzky Cup as well. Or no, maybe he didn't, because Canada skipped the Holinka Gretzky Cup during the COVID years. But he was awesome. I think maybe he did play 1 year at the Holinka, but he was awesome at the U18 Worlds. He's kind of been, once you're in Hockey Canada's good books and you have success with the program Hockey Canada, they tend to go back to their same guys, whether it's U17, U18, U20. So, I mean, Benjamin Gaudreau is penciled in as the starter for Canada, if not this December, certainly next year's tournament. But I would expect he's on that roster in December, if not the favorite to be the number 1 guy. Leo Carlson, we mentioned him when talking about Stenberg. They're kind of the 1-2 punch for Sweden. You look at this year's draft, Lekaramaki, Ostland, and Liam Ogren were the big three for Sweden. Well, come next year, you're going to be talking about Stenberg and Karlsson as the two top 10 contenders among Swedish forwards. As of today, others could emerge. Again, the Europeans sometimes do pop more during the draft year, or they're not as known of commodities to North American scouts. And certainly the best-on-best competitions, really help their stock. So, but right now, Karlsson is right up there. I think he's even more likely to make that World Junior team in December than Stenberg because he's been playing against men in the SHL. But I would expect both of them to be on that tournament team. And then again, the Americans, Rutger McGroarty, Winnipeg Jets draft pick, and Frank Nazar, Chicago Blackhawks draft pick. I expect both those guys. They come through the program. Again, USA Hockey tends to favor guys that come through the program. They have that chemistry. So I would expect Rutger and McGroarty and Frank Nazar to be on the American team. So you look at Monstopia's protected list, all those guys might be there in December. And so you start filling these empty spots on their lineup. And all of a sudden they don't have too many more spots to fill in the draft. They got 2 first-round picks. All of a sudden you're looking at Monstopia. They're 4th place in the summer. They're going to get more reinforcements. They're getting Jurasik back. They're probably going to get Simon Edvinsson back unless he's playing for Detroit in the NHL. And now you're really looking at, okay, well, now I can see why Monstopia decided to sell on Coronado and Dufour, who won't be there in December, because they're going to have their entire protected list and more coming back in December. So it'll be interesting to see if Monstopia is one of the favorites after having 2. They're the only country that'll have 2 first-round picks in December. Midcard will have 2 second-round picks because they acquired Valtakunya's second-round pick. And as mentioned, Valtakunya, they might get, out of their protected list, those guys are probably 2 years away realistically. Yzerman, Celebrini, Yeager, and Musty. So they might not get anybody from the protected list, and they got to wait until, looks like 29th or 30th overall before they make their first pick in December. And they're going to lose McTavish. They're going to lose Thomas Bordeleau, other guys. But in saying that, the sky is not falling for Valtakunya. If they settle for silver here, they have this guy named Connor Bedard coming back in December. They also have a guy by the name of Luke Hughes, who's their number 1 defenseman this summer. He's going back to the University of Michigan. He'll be there in December. And they also have a guy that they acquired, Caden Mbarico, who I assume, even though they lost in the quarterfinals, he didn't have a horrible game. He didn't have the best game. He let in 1 weak goal that was really the turning point. But I would expect he's the favorite to be the starter in December still. So you potentially have your number 1 goaltender, your number 1 defenseman, and your number 1 forward all coming back in December. Again, you got to wait till the end of the second or end of the third round to make your first pick. Other countries are going to be adding a couple impact players before you get to make your first pick, but returning-wise, Valtakunya's in pretty good shape despite going all in on this summer tournament with, there was only 3 trades in UFWJ. All 3 of them involved Valtakunya loading up. First, they acquired Mbarico from Midgard. Then they acquired Coronado and Dufour. As big save there by Dylan Garand, not to completely ignore the game. I am watching, guys. And Czechia is pushing. We're 4 minutes into the second period. Shots are now 15-12. Canada doesn't have a shot in the second period, and I want to say Czechia's got 6 or 7. So Czechia is not going to go away quietly into the night down 2-0. And here they come on another 3-on-2 as that puck's up in the air off Dylan Garand's glove. Where is it? It somehow bounced in behind him and stuck in behind his pads. Wow, fortunate there. That was a wicked shot. Was that Michael Gut as he's mixing it up after the whistle? But him and Gabriel Stutz is out there. Gabriel, 2 Western Hockey League guys. They're not afraid to rough it up. Stutz, a Kelowna Rocket here in Kelowna. And Everett Gut, wow, that was fortunate. Off the glove, off the cheater of the glove, up over, and that dropped inside his blocker. Either it's inside his blocker or above his blocker side pad, but off the glove. Close call for Czechia as they are pushing to start this second period. So we've got to focus on the game as well because there's a heck of a hockey game going on here as Czechia really pushing back. 2 big saves by Dylan Garand and a bit fortunate on his latest save. Canada's got to get some momentum going, and maybe, sometimes you get up 2-0 and you double a team in shots and you already beat that team 5-1. You start thinking it's going to get easy. Well, here we are. Now the shots are 15-14 in favor of Canada almost 5 minutes into the second period, and Czechia has been all over them. So Connor Bedard's line's back out there trying to get in on the rush, but a turnover. And Bedard was cheating a bit on offense there. Again, he's an offensive-minded guy. He's never going to be a defense-first guy. He's out there to score and produce, and he's got a goal. He put Canada up 2-0. But, he's the third forward in on the attack, and he's driving the middle lane and not remembering that turnover there turns into a 3-on-2 the other way if he joins the rush. So, and you're up 2-0. You don't want to sit back, and now you want to push because Czechia is all over you, but at the same time, you got to be responsible defensively and know your role, know that you are the third man in on the rush and stay high instead of driving that lane. But Bedard's always going to be an offensive guy, and don't tell him how to play hockey. He's pretty good at it, and he's scored a ton of goals. But here you'll see on this rush, that was the earlier rush where he got hit by Yuri Ticicek, who's actually been really good for the Czechs. Ticicek, UCAN Republic has him in UFWJ. He's been getting better by the game for Czechia. A guy that not a lot of people maybe know about, but will after this tournament. If you've been watching every game, he's a guy that's starting to pop, and I believe he'll be back for UCAN Republic in December as well. So, but where are we here on protected lists? Went through Monstopio. I guess we're on to Elite Prospectia. This is obviously the country owned by Elite Prospects, one of the partners for UFFS. Great partner. Peter Sibner, one of the founders of Elite Prospects, big supporter of UFFS. They power all of our player profile on the hockey.uffsports.com website. Check that out. And obviously, they bought a country in UFWJ in the franchise auction, and Rob Love and Ed Palumbo are kind of the yin and the yang as far as directors of business development for North America for Elite Prospects. And they're very involved, Rob and Ed, in the UFHL community and UFFS in general. Rob Love and his family own the Tornadoes franchise in UFHL. Rob Love owns the Fanalytic scouting agency, as well as obviously Fanalytic and the platform, and an advanced stats analytics type fantasy hockey driven platform. Check that out. Fanalytica.tech is the website. And then Ed Palumbo, he's the GM or assistant GM, co-GM, whatever you want to call it, with Mark Yates and the Malone family. Ryan Malone, Brad Malone, Greg Malone, the entire Malone family owns the Dynasty franchise. NHL bloodlines there in the UFHL. So again, a lot of real-world hockey people involved, including Elite Prospects. Here you're looking at their protected list. Matthew Wood is a guy that's going to be playing NCAA this coming year as a true freshman, almost an underage freshman. Tore up the BCHL, much like Kent Johnson. I mean, we're seeing Kent Johnson. He's back on the ice here, Kent Johnson, for East End. But we've seen what Kent Johnson did in the BC Hockey League with Trail. We've seen what Alex Newhook did in the BCHL with the Victoria Grizzlies. And Matthew Wood, also with the Victoria Grizzlies, had a similar type year. So you're looking at a mid-first round pick, if not top 10 for Matthew Wood. See how he does in college. Obviously, the college can be a tough jump from junior A when you're a true freshman. Dylan Holloway didn't have a great first year in NCAA playing against Mendes. Here's a breakaway for Kent Johnson. He's in, and oh my, what a save by Thomas Suchanek. Holy, that could be a TSN turning point. Czechia is actually up 17-16 in shots on goal, but Kent Johnson gets behind probably the best hands in the tournament. No offense to Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard's a sniper. As far as pure skill and deking ability, Kent Johnson's probably the best there is, and Thomas Suchanek shuts him down on a breakaway. Wow, 2-0 it stays. But there again, Kent Johnson all over this game. Nearly had his second goal. He opened the scoring, gave Canada the early start with the 1-0 lead. Now 2-0, and just kept it out. But again, we're talking about BCHL players. Kent Johnson was a awesome BCHLer. So was Matthew Wood. Kyle Turris just retired yesterday in the NHL, and he obviously was a third overall pick out of the BCHL way back when. Kind of was one of the trendsetters of top prospects going the junior A route. was at least in this century since 2000. Kyle Turris was one of the big names out of the BCHL. Matthew Wood is a big name to keep in mind for the 2023 draft, as is Zach Benson, obviously. Zach Benson might have been the most consistent. Him and Gauthier, Ethan Gauthier, they were probably the two most consistent players start to finish for Canada in that Hlinka Gretzky Cup. Zach Benson, plays for the Winnipeg Ice in the WHL alongside Connor Geekie, who you've seen there on the Valtacunya, or now on the Monstopia protected list, and Matthew Savoy, who you'll see on a protected list coming up here. But guys that were first-round NHL draft picks this year, a lot of nights when you watch the Winnipeg Ice, the best player on the ice was the underager, Zach Benson, and he was very good at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. So he's kind of, with Braden Yeager, they're both WHL guys, division rivals, Winnipeg Moose Jaw. They're knocking on the door of that top five. If you go Bedard, Mishkov, Fantilli, who's next, right? I mean, you got Haltonen, Stenberg, Carlson, Benson, Yeager. I mean, this draft class is unreal. Probably the best draft. Well, not probably. It is the best talent pool since 2015. That was the Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel draft. This is the Bedard, Mishkov draft. But again, beyond the big two, 2015, and again, I mentioned this in a different watch party, but the Boston Bruins in the middle of the first round took, Zach Senyshyn, Jakub Zaboral, and Jake DeBrusk, I believe 14, 15, 16, or 13, 14, 15. And then the next three picks were Kyle Connor, Matt Barzal, and Thomas Chabot of Ottawa. So tough for Boston, but you look at that draft all the way down into the late 20s, into the 30s, into the second round. Franchise first-line players, top defense pair guys in 2015, and I really think that's what we're looking at with, between 2015 and 2023, next year's NHL draft is just as deep, just as dynamic, just as many franchise-type impact players. And, in the NHL, I don't know how many 2023 first-round picks have been traded, but it's next to none. Nobody wants to give up their 2023 first-round pick because they know they're getting, a player in the 20s who likely would have went top 5 in this year's 2022 draft. There's going to be guys probably, that potentially, in a redraft situation, Juraj Slafkovsky, no offense to him, but Adam Fantilli, Braden Yeager, those guys might actually be as good as Juraj Slafkovsky in their NHL career, and they might go 5th overall this year. And you go a little bit further down, there's guys that are going to be in the second round of 2023 that might be better than some of the top 15, top 10 picks in 2022, potentially. The way things are trending, and Zach Benson certainly being one of them. Denton Matechuk, you look at the impact Olin Zellweger's having for Canada in this tournament, and I believe Zellweger, let me double check that, but I believe he can come back again in December. But he might make the Anaheim Ducks, who knows. But let's see on Zellweger. I think he's an 03. As Canada continues to lead 2-0, out-shooting Czechia 2017. Canada, since that Johnson breakaway, has been energized again. Kent Johnson's been the guy that's really driven Canada in this game. Almost 7 minutes into the second period. But Czechia's had their chances in the second period. And yeah, Zellweger is a 2003, so he could be back for Canada. Quarterback in Canada's power play again in December. He likely will be back because I believe, and again, there's some question marks on this rule because the OHL never played 2 seasons ago. So the rule was with guys like Tyson Forster, for example, they could play in the AHL as an 18, 19-year-old last year. They didn't have to go back to the AHL. They were grandfathered in, per se. But now what happens, or I guess, well, that's irrelevant. Olin Zellweger doesn't play in the OHL. He plays for the Everett Silvertips in the WHL. So as a 2003 player, 19 years old, he's either in Anaheim or he's back in Everett. He can't be in the AHL. So you won't be seeing Olin Zellweger with the San Diego Gulls until his WHL season's over with Everett, or he could be a big trade ringer in the WHL as well. Kamloops, Logan Stankoven's team is going to be hosting the Memorial Cup. They'd love to have an Olin Zellweger on their blue line, potentially. But, he's either going to be in the NHL with Anaheim or he's going to be back in Everett. Anaheim probably has room to keep him for at least a 9-game look, if not keep him for the first half of the year to the World Juniors and then decide if they want to keep him beyond that. As we're looking at Andrej Pavelec as an assistant coach for Czechia, obviously a longtime NHL goaltender, Andrej Pavelec, so blast from the past there, recent past, but still a blast from the past. Good to see he's made his way into coaching and helping out Czechia. And obviously we're looking at Thomas Suchanek in goal, just made that awesome save off of Kent Johnson on the breakaway. Keep this game 2-0. Well, Andrej Pavelec will be one of his mentors. He plays in Tri-City, as mentioned. His goaltending helmet has Carey Price and Olaf Kolzig. Olaf Kolzig still very involved in Tri-City ownership group management. And Carey Price obviously gives back to the game a lot as well in Tri-City with Bob Torrey. So definitely Suchanek's got some good mentors now with Pavelec there as well on the Czechia bench, in addition to the guys helping him in Tri-City. But where is I going with that? Working our way down that protected list. So Denton Mateychuk, he was, Columbus drafted 2 defensemen in the first round this year. Jiricek in the top 10 and Mateychuk, I believe, just outside the top 10, 12 or 13. So I don't know if they have room for one or both. Assume maybe one could get a look this year. The other one will have to wait till next year, most likely. But Mateychuk, Moose Jaw Warriors, Braden Yeager, they're going to be awesome next year. They're going to be, between Winnipeg and Moose Jaw in that East Division are going to be powerhouses. And one of those two are likely going to end up in Kamloops for the Memorial Cup, is my opinion. It'll be Moose Jaw, Winnipeg, and Kamloops will kind of be the big 3 in the WHL. But Denton Mateychuk, huge role there, and he will likely be on the team, on Team Canada come December. Him and Zellweger, playing the role in December. In my opinion, they'll be the 2 offensive defensemen. Mateychuk's been that role at the under-18 Worlds, and we talked about how Canada and Hockey Canada tends to keep those guys in the system. So I would expect Mateychuk to take on a role, especially with a guy like Lucas Cormier graduating. Mateychuk probably steps into that Cormier role, as well as Zellweger being a returnee. So that'll be a nice boost for Elite Prospecti on their blue line. They already have Ronan Seeley. Not sure if Seeley, again, another Everett defenseman, not sure if he is 2002 or not. He is. So they're going to lose Ronan Seeley from Team Canada, Elite Prospectia, but they're going to gain Denton Mateychuk. So that's a nice trade-off, Seeley's been awesome in this tournament. He's been racking up fantasy points for Elite Prospecti, even though he's not getting the prime power play time. He's been on the score sheet a lot and getting, good ice time and stuff. So he's been probably been their number 1 defenseman in this tournament, has Seeley for Elite Prospecti, and he'll be replaced by Denton Mateychuk. Elite Prospecti also has a Russian goaltender, Semyon Vyazov. Again, Russia's not going to be here in December. The following December, if Russia's reinstated, I think that's where... Oh, looks like we lost the chat and stuff. Maybe we're in a commercial break. I'm not sure. It looks like I just lost the chat, guys. Oh, there you are. We're back. Sorry about that, guys. Looks like maybe we had... somebody can tell me, did we have an advertisement there? Maybe I got cut off for a bit. I know we're debuting some ads tonight, so the chat went away for a bit. So maybe there was an ad. I'm supposed to get an alert that an ad's coming, but... if you guys had a Twitch ad in there for 90 seconds, you didn't hear me talking, you didn't miss much. I was just raving about Denton Mateychuk and how he could replace Ronan Seeley for Elite Prospecti at the December tournament this winter. Vyacheslav, as mentioned, with Sergei Ivanov. Both those Russian goaltenders are question marks whether or not Russia gets reinstated. They won't be there in December, so when they come back... if they come back in 2 years at the 2024 tournament, so not this December, but next year, technically 2 years away tournament-wise, but that 2024 tournament, you could be looking at a Sergei Ivanov and Semyon Vyazov tandem, and which goalie would be the number 1 for Russia? Would it be Elite Prospectia's goaltender or Republic of the Seven Seas goaltender? Ivanov's older, so he'd likely have the upper hand, but again, we're talking about Elite Prospectia's protected list, and getting Denton Mateychuk at Christmas would be big. Well, guess what might be even bigger? Who slipped to the 5th fifth round of protected list. And the way that worked, guys, this was cool. The protected list, you didn't draft your 25-man active roster and then draft your protected list separately. It was all at once. So if you wanted to come out and take Cole Yzerman in the first round, you could, or Adam Fantilli. You could take them anywhere between round 1 and round 30. And it'll be the same in December again at the annual draft. You have an open spot in your protected list, you could fill that in the first round with Michael Misa, or you can wait until the 30th round and fill it with your last pick. It's really up to you whether you're building to win now or building to win for the future. But in Elite Prospectia's case, to get Brant Clark as one of the later round picks for the protected list, surprising, and some people were surprised Brant Clark wasn't there at Christmas. A lot of people are surprised Brant Clark isn't here in this summer tournament. They took Ethan Del Maestro, guys like that. Were Del Maestro a late addition to the team, but a number of players made the cut over Brant Clark, who is a more offensive defenseman. But again, when you get to Team Canada at the World Juniors, you got to play a certain role. With Zellweger and Cormier already on the roster, do they need Brant Clark, or do they need a guy like Del Maestro and Sabrango, these shutdown guys, as Kent Johnson works it here? First power play of the game goes to Canada midway through the second period. Huge opportunity to make this a 3-0 game for Canada. Again, Dylan Grand made some saves early. Monster save by Thomas Suchanek to stone Kent Johnson on a breakaway. And now we got the East End tandem of Zellweger and Johnson working this top power play unit. Mason McTavish, again, quarterfinal, semifinal. He just hasn't had the impact that he did earlier in this tournament, but he'll try and get on the board here on this power play as he continues to be the goal-scoring leader for Team Canada. He's got 7 goals in this tournament, so he'd love to make it 8 here on the power play and really kind of put this result not on ice. I mean, 3-0's not impossible to come back from, but with the way Czechia has been pushing at 2-0, Canada definitely wants to make this power play count. And they're moving it around. Oh, man, there's a wide open net. I think that was McTavish. Just redirected it off the side of the net and wide. But that was great passing by all 5 men. Oh, here we go. Stankoven's breaking in from Kent Johnson. And Stankoven rips one glove side on Thomas Suchanek. Logan Stankoven delivers again for Speak of the Devil, Elite Prospectia. And another point for Kent Johnson of East End. So, you look at that second goal was Bedard from Cooley, which gave, the double up for, that was McTavish that just chipped the puck wide. But there was a double up on the second goal and an assist for Velta with Bedard and Cooley. Now you're getting, Kent Johnson's got a goal. Now he's got a power play assist. And there's a multiplier on power play points. It's 2.5 points for the assist. But because it was on the power play, you get 3.5. So Kent Johnson with a big point there for East End as they try to keep pace with Velta in this Canada-Czechia game, knowing that they have the big advantage in the late game, unless Jesper Wallstad shuts the door for Monstopia. But if Finland plays well in that late semifinal tonight and puts up a few goals, and it's the East End boys scoring, again, you got Ratty, Hervonen, Samontavel, Puccio, the list goes on and on for East End with their 6 Finns. If they get on the board tonight and have a good game again, hard to have a good game against Jesper Wallstad. He's looking to have a comeback performance because he blamed himself for that loss against the Americans. Then they went, he was good in the quarterfinal, but not tested that much. Obviously, in their quarterfinal game, a 2-1 win over Latvia, but Latvia had chances, but Wallstad was solid, didn't have to be spectacular. He'll have to be spectacular to shut down this high-octane Finn offense. And Finland has an older team than Sweden. They brought back they had the most returnees in this World Junior Tournament from December, and they also have the best ringer in Atu Radi, who is the set behind McTavish. He was the third highest. Joachim Kemmel was the second highest producing forward in the group stage. As far as fantasy points go, it was McTavish, then Kemmel, but Atu Radi was third on that list. 2 Finns in the top 3, as we see Logan Stankoven celebrating. And again, Stankoven, such a big game player. His Kamloops Blazers, hometown kid. He's a Kamloops kid. He'll probably be captaining the Blazers this year, and they'll be hosting the Memorial Cup in Kamloops if he doesn't make the Dallas Stars. But funny side story, Tom Gagliardi owns the Dallas Stars, and he also owns the Kamloops Blazers. His family owns the Sandman Hotel chain in Canada, as well as the Moxie's restaurant chain, the Chop Steakhouse restaurant chain. They got their hands in a lot of things. Tom Gagliardi, I like Tom. I've met him a few times, interviewed him after Blazer games, and he loves that Kamloops-Kelowna rivalry, and he's pretty generous with his time, pretty funny guy, so hard not to like Big Tom. But he owns the Dallas Stars, and he owns the Kamloops Blazers. He's obviously putting a lot of money into Kamloops to have them be the Memorial Cup host, and I'm sure he's going to have a little bit of a say in the decision whether Stankoven plays in Dallas or plays in Kamloops. And he might play in Dallas for the first half of the year till the World Juniors. More and more teams are doing that in the NHL. They go to the 40-game mark instead of the traditional 10 games. You can only play 9 games, then back to junior, or you burn a year of the ELC, the entry-level contract. Now more and more teams are worried about the 40-game mark, as Czechia puts puck in after the whistle. 40-game mark, because when you get to game 40 of the NHL team's schedule, whether you play 20 games or 30 or 40, out of the 40, when the NHL team gets to their 40th game, the mid-season mark, that's when you burn a year of free agency, and the team control loses a year towards free agency. That's almost the bigger consideration now for NHL teams than burning a year off the entry-level contract. And maybe that's guys like Kent Johnson and Matty Beniers and the college guys. They're all coming in at the end of the season and burning a year with the 10 games. And I think these CHL players saying, hey, well, why are we burning all these contracts on college guys? They're all going into year 2 of their ELC, and we're getting sent back after 9 games. More and more of them are staying till the World Juniors, till Christmas, till that 40-game mark, which usually happens during the World Juniors, and then they're loaned back to their junior team for the second half. With Kamloops already a lock in the Memorial Cup as the host, it's possible they do that with Stankoven, but Dallas is going to be deep. They got a lot of returnees. They don't necessarily need him. They got a guy like Ty Dellandrea ready to step up into a top 9 position as a guy that's played pro as a first-round pick, center iceman. So Wyatt Johnston is another guy who had a great year, led the OHL in scoring. So Dallas has an awesome prospect pool. I don't think they have any reason to play Stankoven unless they honestly think he's too good to send back to junior, and he's going to be a difference maker for them as far as potentially winning a Stanley Cup or making a big playoff run. Then maybe they would keep him up. But again, Big Tom, I'm sure, would love to have his hometown boy Logan Stankoven, and I believe Tom and the Gagliardi family are from Kamloops. That's why they own the Blazers. So certainly they would love to have Logan Stankoven back in Kamloops as the face of the franchise for the Memorial Cup year. And but here he is. He's on the board, 3-0 Canada. Player of the game in the quarterfinals, 3-0 goal here tonight. Not sure if he had an assist on that first goal by Johnson. I don't think he did. I think just Forster did. But that line's been buzzing all game, and now Stankoven scores another big goal for Canada, makes it 3-0, gives them that breathing room because Czechia just had a power play here that Canada's just finished killing off now. But Czechia pushed hard in the first half of this second period, and if not for that power play goal from Stankoven, gives Canada a bit of breathing room. And yeah, Alex says Monstopia for gold, UFWJ 2023, so in December. Big point from Johnson. Now we hope Goot can cash for us on the power play. Yeah, that power play got killed, but if East End could get any sort of positive points, if Czechia breaks through, Canada's going back on the power play here with 5 minutes left in the second period. But you get Johnson and Zellweger on this power play, you can't complain there. But if Stanislav Svozil, now we got David Svozil, his younger brother, stuck in my head, but if Stanislav breaks through or Michael Goot get on the board for Czechia, that would be a huge bonus for East End because they have 2 players from Czechia and obviously Valtacunya has none. So if Czechia scores, Dean doesn't have to sweat. Dean, Ian, and Craig Button don't have to sweat at that. Hey, did Valtacunya get any points there? Because no, they don't have any Czechia players. And Czechia, even if they get shut out today, they still have a bronze medal game to play tomorrow. So there's 2 chances there for Goot and Svozil to make an impact to really, in addition to their ice time, obviously, and their shots on goal, but to get on the score sheet would be a huge bonus for East End in trying to chase down Velta Cunha with this 10-point gap entering today. But as mentioned, last but not least on the Velta Cunha or on the Elite Prospectia protected list, Brandt Clark as a real impact player come December on defense. I think Matechuk and Clark could be, in the top 3 of Canada's defense come December. So when you look at it that way, Elite Prospectia's future on defense, thanks to their protected list, Dynasty League World Juniors is going to be huge. I love this comment from Dean. He says, Big Tom Gagliardi needs a UFHL franchise. If I see Tom, if I make it to the Memorial Cup next year, I'll let him know. I'll let him know which franchises are for sale, and we'll see if we can get him involved in the professional fantasy. And again, we're not joking. This is professional fantasy, big money. The Conacher family, lots of real world hockey people. The Conacher family, which is obviously Corey Conacher, former NHLer, his brother Shane Conacher, their dad Dave Conacher, and their sister Jacqueline. Jacqueline. I think it's Jacqueline. I hope I got that right. She's married to Ryan Schmelzer, who's the captain of the Utica Comets, the New Jersey Devils AHL affiliate. And Ryan wants to be a manager post-playing career, wants to get into hockey ops. Well, guess how Ryan's training to become an NHL GM or executive? He's the GM of the Gators. So not only is he busy captaining the Utica Comets, he's out here in the UFHL, the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League, our version of the NHL. He's managing the Gators, who are a top 10 franchise. Nathan McKinnon, Jacob Markstrom. They got a lot of impact players. He's made some trades, some moves, and I think they're still looking for their big signature move to really put their stamp on the franchise. But one thing about Ryan Schmelzer that, is different from fantasy, but very similar to the real world, is a patient approach. They could have came in and blown that up and traded this guy and that guy. Matt Gunn, for the most part, constructed that team in his year and a half. Lauren White was the inaugural GM for, there's Mason McTavish. Power play goal for Canada, one-timer, 4-0 towards the end of the second period. Don't know if that was Zellweger. I think that was Zellweger that teed up McTavish. So McTavish of Velta Cunha makes it 4-0. But I think Zellweger of East End's going to get the assist here. So this might offset. But there's Captain Canada, and that is Zellweger with teeing him up. So look at the whip on, or that was his one-timer that missed the net. Gets a new twig. Circles back in. Let's make sure that was Zellweger that teed him up again. That's Kent Johnson. So that's going to be Kent Johnson of East End, not Zellweger. Johnson back manning the top position, feeds McTavish. But either way, that's East End. Both East End and Velta Cunha can celebrate there as they both get 3.5 fantasy points as Canada clicks again on the power play. Make it 4-0. Back-to-back power play goals. Czechia can't afford to take penalties. Logan Stankoven and now of Elite Prospectia, now Mason McTavish of Velta Cunha. 4-0 Canada with under 4 minutes to go in the second period. That probably puts this result on ice. Now we got to focus on Dylan Garand at the other end. Can he keep the door shut on Czechia? If he does, no jinx, but that's a nice bonus. I won't say the word for Arnie and Anarchia, but that would be a big bonus for Anarchia as they try to chase down Scoreway in the medal standings. And we'll get back there in a second. Let's take a look at the other, or we'll wait till the second intermission. We'll watch the end of this period, and then we'll get into the other. I'll scroll down and take a look at the other protected lists and start getting into them. As it looks like my computer's giving us some grief here. One sec. Something's going haywire. Let's just wait here, guys. I'll get this fired back up. It's nice. It's still showing there the background of the other protected list, but my Chrome died on me, so we're just getting this going again. Technical difficulties with 3 minutes to go in the second period as Czechia is still pushing. They're still trying to get something going here. So yeah, let's get these other protected lists geared up for the intermission because, again, this is a big part of Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors. UFWJ are these protected lists and who's coming up, who's the next wave of talent, and very, very interesting stuff. So just trying to get this geared up for us. Well, bear with me here. Oh, now OBS is glitching. One sec, guys. Maybe it's CPU usage, perhaps, on OBS might be a bit high. It's too many windows open in Chrome or something. I'm not sure what the issue is. Or maybe we're in another advertisement here, too. That could be where we're at. There we go. Now we're back, I think. Let's see. Hopefully we're back. Bear with me. Now we're not getting the Chrome up. There we go. Sorry for the delay, everyone. We're back. I think we're good to go. I don't know what happened there. It might have been another ad, but I'm not getting the alerts if we have ads. Dean says I'm still on, but the chat went away and everything on my end for a bit again. So good that you guys could still see me, and good that we're back as we get into the final 2 minutes of the second period. Canada up 4-0. 4 different goal scorers. We had obviously Kent Johnson of East End, Connor Bedard of Valtacuna, Logan Stankoven of Elite Prospectia, and most recently, Captain Canada, Mason McTavish of Valtacuna. So Valtacuna's 2 big boys, Bedard and McTavish, have 2 of Canada's 4 goals. But when we look at the standings and the 10-point gap for first place, or less than 10 points, East End's holding their own today with Kent Johnson's big game. He's got a goal and an assist. And obviously they have some ice time coming from the Czechia guys, etc. So East End and Valtacuna, as I said prior to this game, I said it's most likely going to come down to the gold medal game tomorrow night. Who's going to be the inaugural UFWJ champion? Who's going to get the first ever UFWJ gold medals around their neck or in the mail? And to be determined, as Canada leads 4-0 here with less than 2 minutes to go in the second period. There is Olin Zellweger of East End, who, as mentioned, will be back for that December tournament if he's not a full-time player in Anaheim and they don't release him, as Zellweger just rips one on Thomas Suchanek. And Suchanek's made 22 saves on 26 shots, but he's been peppered again. The shots are only 26-23, but the grade A scoring chances are probably 10-1 for Canada, something like that, including obviously a big save on a Kent Johnson breakaway earlier this period. If not for Suchanek, this could easily be a 6-7, 8-0 game already. And Dylan Garand's been solid, but all tournament long, Dylan Garand has been solid. I don't think he's faced a breakaway yet, other than maybe the Rysavy breakaway that he let in against Czechia in the group stage game when Canada won 5-1. That was the only goal Czechia got there. Back bar snipe by Martin Rysavy. Speaking of Moose Jaw Warriors, we were talking about Matachuk and Jaeger. Well, Martin Rysavy plays in Moose Jaw as an import in the WHL, but definitely Garand, I think that's the word for him. And Garand, guess who Garand plays for in the CHL? He backstops the Kamloops Blazers. He'll be their goaltender for the Memorial Cup next season as an overager, most likely. The New York Rangers have signed Dylan Garand. They could turn him pro, in which case Dylan Ernst, a different Dylan, the other Dylan in Kamloops, would take over as the starter for the Memorial Cup year. Younger guy, he was draft eligible this year, went undrafted. I had him on my list, but just outside my draft range in that 225 to 250 range. I thought somebody would take a chance on Dylan Ernst. Very small sample size. But goaltending factory, the Dan De Palma goaltending factory in Kamloops, that was offside. Thought somebody would take a chance on Dylan Ernst just because if you go back to Connor Ingram, Dylan Ferguson, Dylan Garand, now Dylan Ernst, every Kamloops goaltender seems to, become a legitimate NHL prospect and get drafted. So I thought somebody would take a chance on Dylan Ernst. From Saskatchewan, just like Ingram. And his older brother, Ethan Ernst, was a Kelowna Rocket for a long time. I believe he played for the Grenfell Spitfires at one point briefly. Senior team, UFFS founder Nathan Bender. Obviously, we know Dale Hardy. He has Scoreway. We're talking about Scoreway, and we'll talk about their protected list here momentarily. But Dale Hardy, the owner of Scoreway, is very involved with the Grenfell Spitfires. Big time, one of Nathan's good buddies, big time guy in Grenfell. He has the UFAHL Spitfires, who are the Grizzlies affiliate. Yes, we have an AHL league coming, hopefully this October in UFFS as well. But very cool on that front. But yeah, we definitely have we have the UFAHL Spitfires. He also has the scouting agency Spitfire Scouting, who had guys like David Urasek and Connor Geekie, and a lot of these top prospects that have been drafted into the UFHL have come through Dale Hardy and Spitfire Scouting. So you got Spitfire Scouting, you got the UFAHL Spitfires, both recently branded. If you haven't checked them out, on the hockey.uffsports.com website, you can now check out Spitfire Scouting has revealed their logo, as have the UFAHL Spitfires. So a bit of a spoiler there. I think Dale's going to make the official announcements and do the brand reveals probably this coming week after the UFWJ. But they got their logos all online already, so that's cool. But yeah, Dale's when the synergies there. He's a big part of the Grenfell Spitfires senior men's hockey team, where Dylan Ernst's older brother. Dylan Ernst, speaking of Dylan Ernst's older brother, Ethan Ernst, he got traded from Kelowna to the Tri-City Americans. So he was a go-to guy for Tri-City offensively in a rebuilding year, on teammates with Thomas Suchanek, the Czechia goaltender. And if his little brother is a top goaltender in the WHL with Kamloops. So kind of a cool full circle there with the Grenfell Spitfires, UFAHL Spitfires, and obviously Spitfire Scouting, Dale Hardy. And here he is with Scoreway, and we'll get to their protected list. We'll start with Can West, who also is all over the UFFS ecosystem, also has Can West Scouting Agency. They've had a ton of top prospects go, including Mason McTavish, who was drafted by none other than the Can West. I almost called them the Can. They got franchises in every UFFS league, but in the UFHL, our NHL league, they're the Can West Generals, and they drafted Mason McTavish, as well as Owen Power, as well as the aforementioned Brant Clark, and Jesper Wallstead. They had 4 top 10 picks in 2021. That's the future for the Can West Generals. They went into rebuilding mode, and they loaded up through the 2021 draft that is trending very well for them. You look at their protected list. The guy that stands out is Matthew Savoy. He could be a potential top 10 pick for the Buffalo Sabres. Didn't make this summer tournament for Canada. We talked about Connor Geekie, his Winnipeg Ice teammate. We talked about Zach Benson, his Winnipeg Ice teammate. Some friction between the Savoy family and Hockey Canada over exceptional player status. Matthew was denied. He was going to go to the University of Denver with his brother Carter Savoy. He was committed there. Obviously, they won a national championship, NCAA title. Carter was such a big part of that. Signed with the Edmonton Oilers, turned pro with his hometown NHL team next season. But Matthew Savoy has kind of been on the blacklist for Hockey Canada. As we said, if you're in the good books, the good gracious, you played there at the Holinka, the U17s, U18s, then you're probably going to have a spot at the U20s. Well, Savoy hasn't been a big Hockey Canada guy. Neither was Carter. Carter could have been on this team that we're watching as an O2. So I think Matthew, I think they can't deny him, right? Going back to December, Matthew Savoy was leading the Western Hockey League in scoring, leading the league in scoring. He didn't get invited to the selection camp and wasn't named to the roster at Christmas. Now not invited back in the summer, but he is hurt. He suffered an injury in the playoffs with the Winnipeg Ice. He went to Buffalo. He's drafted in the top 10 by Buffalo. He went to their development camp, but he didn't do any on-ice stuff there in Buffalo a couple weeks ago. So Likely not on this summer roster due to injury. Expect if he's healthy, he'll be a go-to guy offensively with Bedard. With Mason McTavish not there, and now they're not on the same line here in the semifinal. But throughout this tournament, it was McTavish and Bedard. It could be Savoy and Bedard as the 1-2 offensive punch come the December tournament. So Can West has Matthew Savoy. They also have a couple Finns and Helenius and Karki. Those guys are likely 2 years away World Junior-wise. Riley Height is kind of the next Ridley Gregg if you want to have a comparison handy. He plays for the Prince George Cougars in the Western Hockey League, does Riley Height. Kind of like Braden Yeager, going back to that Bantam draft. Now, don't let me butcher it. The Savoy draft was Savoy Geeky. Winnipeg Ice had the first and second overall picks. They took Savoy and Geeky during their rebuilding year. They're benefiting now. The next year, I guess that was the Connor Bedard draft. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. He got exceptional. So Savoy got denied exceptional status. The next year, Bedard became the first ever player to get exceptional status in the Western Hockey League. He went first overall to Regina. Braden Yeager went second overall to Moose Jaw, and Riley Height went third overall to Prince George. Prince George is a team that really needs to take a step and make some noise in the BC division. Next year should be, Kelowna's going to be really good next year too with Andrew Crystal and Caden Price as two top-end draft guys, along with a bunch of returning young guys. Kelowna never really rebuilds. They just reload. Bruce Hamilton, no longer Lauren Fry, but Bruce, he's a reloader, and Kelowna's going to be stronger next year than they were this year, and they gave Kamloops a decent run this year. But Prince George, next year should be Prince George's year to really make some noise with a guy like Riley Height part of the leading the way there. Do I think he'll make the World Juniors at Christmas? I doubt it. I think he'll be the next year. So, and Braden Dubé is going to be a couple years down the road. So when I look at Can West as a country in UFWJ, I would expect that Matthew Savoy would be their only player projected to the active roster in December. Moving along to Scoreway, Berkeley Catton, another Saskatoon product, played at Shattuck St. Mary's, is going to play for Spokane, I believe, in the Western League. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. I believe he was him and Celebrini. Well, Celebrini went in the U.S. draft, just the way that worked out, to Seattle. But I believe Berkeley Catton was the first overall pick to Spokane, if I'm not mistaken. But top 5 pick for sure. I think he was first overall. So he's going to be a big part of the Spokane Chiefs going forward. But again, young guy looking ahead to 2024. We mentioned Iserman and Celebrini, and there you see Aaron Kitty-Haru with Midgard. We'll get there next. But Berkeley Catton's a big part of that draft class, kind of in the top 5 as well. If Celebrini's the number 1 Canadian forward, Berkeley Catton's the next. But those guys aren't expected to make the World Juniors, in their -1 draft year. They're not even draft eligible this coming season. It's the following season. So they'd have to have an amazing start to the year to even be considered, like Bedard did, to even be considered for the selection camp for Team Canada. So unlikely that Berkeley Catton will be there as a WHL rookie with Spokane. Emil Vini, there's a more interesting story. Goaltender from Finland. He was really good for Finland at this Holinka Gretzky Cup. Probably the best goaltender in the tournament. He's the future of Finland in goal as far as the World Juniors go. He could be a guy like Jesper Wallstedt was for Sweden, where you play 3 or 4 years of World Juniors. So Emil Vini for Scoreways, their goaltender in the future. And they don't have a goaltender. Oh, well, no. Okay, that's rude. They have Bruno Bruveris. Let's not forget Bruno Bruveris. Remember that name from Latvia. We all thought they didn't have a goaltender because they lost Jakub Malik, who would have been the returning starter for Czechia, who were watching. He didn't come back for the summer tournament, so now we got Thomas Suchanek in there. Jan Bednar had a couple starts in the group stage. He kind of was the number 1. Suchanek took over for Czechia. But to replace Jakub Malik, Scoreway drafted Bruno Bruveris, and I'm thinking he might be an 02, but let me double check that one. But Latvian sensation, Bruno Bruveris. Obviously, Latvia, they only lost 2-1 to Sweden in the quarterfinals, and they beat Czechia. They beat Czechia 5-2 in a must-win game to make the quarterfinals, to make the medal round, to eliminate Slovakia. And Bruno Bruveris, who is a 2002-born goaltender, he won't be back for Scoreway. So they'll be drafting a new goaltender in December, unless Emil Vini's way ahead of the curve. And again, he's a 2004 he's a late birthday, so he's not eligible for 2003. He is a 2005. Let me double check this. I don't like to spew wrong facts here, but Emil Vinny is late 2005. So this is the 2005 draft class, or 2005 born draftees up until September 15th are eligible. January 1 to September 15th, 2005. This is their class in 2023. Vini is a December 2005, so he actually goes into that 2024. So because he's a December birthday, okay, now this is getting a bit confusing, but the World Juniors, their cutoff is December 31st. It's not, or cutoff is January 1st. It's not September 15th. They don't use the NHL birth date rules. So that's why the 2002s that are born between September 16th and December 31st, they're not eligible to come back for next year's tournament, because the cutoff was if you're born by December 31st, 2002, this is your last tournament. Even though other guys, in the NHL, they weren't drafted as early, but it goes by entire birth year for 2002 in the UFWJ and the World Juniors. So Vini, this is the 2002 class. There's the 2003, 2004, 2005. So he could play, 3, 4, 5 World Juniors, but he's not likely going to be with Finland. Levi Merilainen won't be back. So who's going to step up for Finland and be their goaltender in December? It would be shocking if they took a guy who was 2 years out from their NHL draft. But Emil Viney played so good at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup that he might be on the radar. Scoreway would certainly be happy with that, because I'm looking. One guy they're going to have back is Kevin Pash, who in the quarterfinal against Switzerland, Canada, Kevin Pash came in and stopped, I think, 32 of 33 shots after Noah Patnode got pulled. Patnode's an 0-2. He's gone. Kevin Pash will be Switzerland's #1 goaltender in December, and Scoreway will have Kevin Pash returning. So they do have one returning goaltender, but obviously the future of goal, as far as a true #1, an impact goalie for Scoreway and Dale Hardy, will be Emil Viney. Again, they got a lot of young guys. Aiden Park, Christian Humphreys, and Alexei Dontsov, the Russian. Those guys are all part of that 2006 age group. So we're at 2002 at this tournament. So those guys are 4 years younger. They're 15. They were talking about 19-year-old tournament. Those guys are 15. So they got 4 more years of UFWJ before they're, till they age out. So 4 more years of UFWJ for Catton, Dontsov, Park, and Humphreys. But again, keep in mind that the World Juniors is generally speaking a 19-year-old tournament. So these guys might not make the World Juniors for 3 more years. They're on the protected list already, so it's going to be fascinating to watch them develop year over year, get closer and closer to the World Juniors, and then boom, Scoreway's got 4 impact players 3 years from now. And I mean, look at Midgard. They're in the exact same boat. They also went very young with their protected list. All 5 of their players are in that 2024 class. Aaron Kitty Harju, potential first overall pick. Again, battling with guys like Berkeley Catton and Cole Iserman and Macklin Celebrini, and even Emil Viney might be a top 10 pick in that draft class. But then Tisha Ginla, that's Jerome's son. He's going to be a Hockey Canada guy, just like his dad was most likely. Connor Davis, goaltender for Canada in the future. We talked about Benjamin Gaudreau with Monstopia. Ben Gaudreau likely being the next starting goaltender for Canada. It's hard to project that many years down the road. 4 years down the road, 3 years down the road. Potentially, Connor Davis could be the next big Canadian goaltender. He's the top guy in that 2024 class as of today from Canada. But again, it's a long way away. Goaltenders develop. It's not a straight line, so we'll see how Connor Davis pans out. Thomas Zoko, kind of a Trevor Zegras type flashy forward from the United States. We'll see how he develops over the next, likely, again, I'm saying the next 3 seasons, because these guys are likely 3 to 4 years away from playing for Midgard in the Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors. These are 15-year-old kids. Carl Sterner, the same. He's a Swede, kind of the Alexander Holtz sniper type player, William Eklund type player. But again, he's 3-4 years away from from making the Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors. So Scoreway and Midgard have young protected lists. They're going to have to wait a while for impact. Although, in saying that, I mean, Aaron Kiviharju, probably the MVP of the Hlinka Gretzky Cup this year. Dan Nadeau of Prestige Worldwide was at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, presented Aaron Kiviharju with a Prestige Worldwide t-shirt and hat. How cool was that? Dan obviously knows a lot of these groups. He did World Selects Invitational. He coached the Canada West Selects for a number of years, including the group that played against Aaron Kiviharju. And over in, I want to say that was in Italy maybe, where he won gold with Can West. Again, we have Can West the country, and then we have Dan Nadeau from Can West All-Stars in summer hockey tournaments, the best of the best for those 14, 15, 13-year-old kids. So he got to know Aaron Kiviharju's dad really well and stayed in good touch, good friends with the family. Kiviharju's part of the Prestige Worldwide Scouting Agency. They went all out and acquired his rights in last summer's futures auction for UFFS. Won the bid and selected Aaron Kiviharju. So very interesting to see how he progresses. And he already made his pro debut. Dan sent me a link to some of the highlights. Don't have Instat anymore presently, but Dan sent me a link to some highlights, and he looks smooth out there, confident and poised with his pro debut in the Liga. Looked much like he did in the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, where he was just, I think poised is the best word, but also dynamic. Poised but dynamic. Rasmus Dahlin was a first overall pick. Kiviharju's got a lot of that in him. He's a little bit smaller than Dahlin. That's the one thing, is he's undersized, but his skill level is just through the roof, and his smarts allow him to be, he sees the game 2 steps ahead as a defenseman. So even though he doesn't have the size, he's got the mobility and the smarts to not have his size hold him back. Very promising player for UFWJ, for the country Midgard. That takes us to Anarchia. Another awesome story right off the top. Hunter Burstowitz. Might have butchered that name. I hope I didn't. But Hunter Burstowitz, his younger brother Henry Burstowitz, just went in the futures auction to Brennan Kopp, the scout, a couple weeks ago in the middle of the first round. And during the futures auction, we put out the link on at UFHL_scouting to come watch the futures auction. Well, guess who decided to click the link and watch the futures auction? Mr. Burstowitz himself, their dad, Hunter and Henry's dad, was watching the futures auction play out. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, his son gets selected in the 20s. I think he was the 3rd defenseman selected overall. Hunter's also a defenseman, but Henry's a young defenseman. Hunter's probably going to play at December. It's his draft year, potential top 15 pick. He's likely going to play for Anarchia this December. But younger brother Henry is, again, another top 3, top 5 defenseman in the world for his age group, coming out of USA, potential first-round NHL draft pick in 2025, 3 years away. But it was very cool that Mr. Burstowitz contacted Brennan Kopp, the scout, tracked him down on Twitter, searched his name, found his Twitter handle. Brennan's DMs were open. He slid in there, said, "Hey, you just selected my son. What's this all about?" Brennan told him all about UFFS. And next thing you know, he gets on Telegram, contacts me. We have a meeting, and he just fell in love with the concept. And now, again, we're going through the transition to Kudos, and from Zilliqa to Kudos as far as blockchain and relaunching UFFS and the score coin. But Mr. Burstowitz is interested in buying, I'm sure he'd be interested in buying a UFWJ country and have his boys involved, and maybe Henry gets selected by Anarchia, keep the brothers together in the December auction if they have a spot open on the protected list. Looks like they'll have a couple. But Mr. Burstowitz is interested in UFWJ, will be following that, loves the scouting side, and is interested in not only buying an Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League UFHL franchise, putting together an ownership group in the Detroit area, I think is where he's from. I know he knows Derek Stevens from Circa. I'm not sure why Derek's name slipped my mind, but Derek Stevens, one of our big supporters from the Circa Resort and Casino in Vegas. Derek obviously owns football and baseball franchises on the UFFS platform. Powerhouse, the Circa Sports Trout and Swingin' Trout in baseball. They're going to be contenders again. They just came off an undefeated season, the only undefeated team in the Ultimate Fantasy American Football League, our NFL league, and their Swing and Trout are middle of the pack. They've been climbing the standings in UFLB inaugural season, but they look like they're going to miss the playoffs. But they just made a blockbuster trade at the deadline, got a real ace for their pitching staff, paid the most score coin we've ever seen, the 300,000 score coin for a single player at the trade deadline. That's how much score coin they paid for their ace pitcher, and Walker Buehler, I think was his name. Correct me if I'm wrong, baseball guys. I'm not I don't follow every sport as closely as I do hockey, so it's a little tough for me. Third period's underway, by the way, 4-0 Canada. Shots are only 27-24 here, a minute into the third, but we'll keep going through the protected list and telling some UFFS stories while also keeping an eye on the game. But yeah, Derek Stevens, big supporter, and the Burstowich family knows Derek. I'm guessing his dad grew up in the same era as Derek, so yeah, definitely some small world in the UFFS world. But Mr. Burstowich is interested not only in UFHL, but also said, I want to get into hockey first, but I'm a fantasy football guy. I love fantasy football, and if a UFAFL franchise came available at the right price point, the group he's putting together might be interested there as well. So, but very cool. I mean, you got the Conacher family, you got the Malone family. Now all of a sudden you could have the Burstowich family with, Hunter and Henry being top NHL prospects in, 2023 and 2025. So, very cool potential to have Mr. Burstowich involved. We got a commercial on now, so I don't know where I was there. Sorry, guys. I'm always trying to keep one eye on the chat here, but Zellweger got the second assist on the McTavish goal, so that's big for East End. East End's racking up some points, keeping pace with Valtacunia. Commercial on now. Check out the poll question. Okay, that's cool. Okay, Alex says I nailed Walker Buehler, so that's gotta have a good memory because I only glanced at that trade once. But 300,000 score coin for one trade, one player is prior to Circa had the most. Circa. Again, we're talking about a billionaire here. Derek Stevens is a billionaire. He owns the world's biggest sports book in North America at Circa Sports and Resort in Vegas, or Circa Resort and Casino in Vegas. Check out the stadium swim there if you're ever in Vegas. It's on Fremont, or it's on, up in Old Vegas, not on the downtown strip, but still, I mean, Circa Resort and Casino is an awesome spot. If you're a sports fan, it's the place to be in Vegas. They hosted the UCFFL Ultimate College Fantasy Football League launch and franchise auction from Circa in April. That league kicks off next week, August 27th already. We're going to have college fantasy football. But again, Mr. Burstowich knows Derek Stevens, putting together a bit of an ownership group, waiting to see how things shake out with the relaunch of UFFS, and then potentially prior to the NHL season, we might see a new franchise owner, new ownership group enter the UFHL with more real-world bloodlines. The Burstowich brothers are going to be big news in the coming years for NHL drafts 2023 and 2025. Hunter and Henry, keep those names in mind. Maybe I'm butchering the last name. I really hope I'm not. I think it's Burstowich. But anyway, their dad's in the mix. He's on Telegram. He's lurking. He's watching. In the weeds. He's waiting in the weeds. I don't think he's going to make a big announcement until he knows which franchise he's eyeing out of the ones that are available. He's checking out rosters. He might connect with some owners and may have some follow-up meetings, but definitely interested and following along and seeing how his boys do in UFWJ, which is where they'll debut on the UFFS platform. They'll play in the World Juniors before they make the AHL or the NHL, obviously. So Hunter and Henry, Hunter is with Anarchia as of now and likely will be. You look at their top two on their protected list, Hunter Burstowich and Theo Lindstein. Lindstein was great for Sweden. He was their best defenseman at the Linka Gretzky Cup. It's his draft year, 2023 as well. Both those guys, again, this 2023 draft class, how many times I said potential top 10 pick? There's 70 potential top 10 picks. It's just an awesome draft class. But those two guys, Burstowich and Lindstein, both defensemen, both potentially graduating to Anarchia. They're going to lose guys like Lucas Cormier. They're going to lose guys. Let me bring up the roster here for Anarchia. Who else do they have? Yeah, Jack Thompson. They're going to lose some guys on defense. Anarchia will. But they're going to potentially have Burstowich and Lindstein graduating from the protected list if those two guys make their countries in their draft year, which is hard to do, right? Because they're they're 2020, they're 2005 born players, and the Christmas tournament is a 2003 tournament. The 19-year-olds, typically a 19-year-old tournament, those guys will be born in 2003. We're talking about guys that are born in 2005, potentially playing up with guys that are 2 years older than them, already drafted 2 years ago, or guys that were drafted last year in 2021 will still be back at the Christmas tournament, and these guys are only going to be drafted in 2023. So 2 years older, it's a big difference, but they're contenders to make their teams at Christmas. Down to the bottom, Noah or Leiden. Speaking of guys that were good at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, I'd say Emil Vini of Finland was the best goaltender at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. He's a big goaltender for Finland. Noah or Leiden reminds me a lot of Enroth, Jonas Enroth. Small, quick Finnish goaltender, kind of like a UC Saros, but he's a smaller guy. Sorry, I said Finnish. Swedish goaltender, Noah or Leiden. Reminds me of Jonas Enroth, who was a Swede, and then obviously UC Saros, who is a Finn. But that style, small, quick, athletic guy, Noah or Leiden. Again, not draft eligible till 2024, so not likely to be at the World Juniors in December. Both Jesper Wallstedt and Kalle Klang are 2002s. They've been playing for Sweden in this summer tournament. They won't be back in December. Carl Lindbaum is a 2003. He was acquired by Midgard in that trade for Caden Mberico, who's also a 2003. Mberico has the experience from this summer tournament, and he'll likely still be the USA starter in December. But Carl Lindbaum, as the lone returnee among 2003-born players, probably projects as Sweden starter for December, unless a young guy like Erliden Sweden's got a lot of good goaltenders. They'll have other challengers. I would assume Erliden's a couple years away from UFWJ and World Juniors. Same with Vini, likely. And their other two guys are also young. Danila Porshkov and Clark Caswell. Those guys are both 2024 eligible. Again, we're talking about the 2021 draft class will be the premier players at the December tournaments. Those guys you're not likely going to play up against guys that are 3 years older than you. Those guys are going to be the guys that are or were the guys that played at the U18 level, the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, and they'll be at the U18 Worlds in April in their draft year or draft -1. In those guys' case, they weren't even at the Hlinka. Well, obviously Russia wasn't there, but Caswell wasn't either because those guys are draft -2 this summer. So, they got a ways to go before they're impactful for Anarchia and UFWJ, but promising talent in the pipeline, and again, potentially 2 defensemen to join the Anarchia roster in December. Hunter Burstowicz could be a family story in UFFS, another one to go with the Conackers and the Malones. And then Theo Lindstein, as mentioned, as the top defenseman from the Hlinka Gretzky Cup team for Swedes that are entering their draft year. He was dynamic there, and not quite to the level of Aaron Kiviharju, but Theo Lindstein was one of the top defensemen at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. Last but not least, UCAN Republic. Lots of young guys here again. I think they're all 2024 eligible. So nobody that's going to be graduate. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's one name here that might graduate to the active roster as a real underager, and that would be Adam Jeko or Jeko. He's playing in Finland, but he's a guy that, I'm going to look him up here, make sure I get his birth date right. But he's one of these guys that, he's a Czechia player, so he could potentially be on this Czechia team come Christmas, come December. We could be talking about Adam Jeko as one of the go-to forwards, or a new, hot shot forward like a Yuri Kulich type. Or a Uri Slavkovsky type guy. Again, I keep saying he's a 2006, so he's not draft eligible until 2024. So I'm not going to say he's a potential top 10 draft pick next summer because he's the following summer. But he's been playing in Finland. Looks like he is still in Finland with Tapera program there. But very interesting prospect, a real high-end talent for that 2024 class. I believe Arnie from Pipeline Prospects, he obviously is part of the Anarchia management group here in UFWJ. He might try to trade for Adam Jeko from UCAN Republic from the Gumpa Sports Group. I don't know if they're on the watch party today, but they're always supporting the watch parties. Rob Conte, Nelson Martins, and Paul, I don't want to pronounce his last name, but Paul, the third member of their management group, ownership group. They have Wise Guys Prospects who just recruited Ash Glover, as mentioned, to be joined their scouting agency. They now own the most, between Ash and Nelson, own the most prospects of any scouting agency in UFFS. Wise Guys Prospects, part of the Gumpa Sports Group. They, along with Joseph Perez, own UCAN Republic. And again, you're looking at a young group there. Charlie Ellick, really good young defenseman. Don't know if he's going the college route or he's coming into the Western League. I should know that. Somebody will tell me that he's going to the college. Something tells me he's going college route, but Brandon Wheat Kings, Dean Millard, there you go. He signed with the Brandon Wheat Kings. He played 9 games with Brandon last year, had his first WHL goal as a 2006 born player. So there you go. He's going to be in the 2024 draft class, defenseman Charlie Ellick of the Brandon Wheat Kings. So he's not going the college route. Thinking of maybe EJ Emery's going the college route. But he's not on a protected list yet, EJ Emery. But anyway, back to Charlie Ellick. He's going to be kind of like Vincent Arroyo or now I can't get tongue twister. Brandon Wheat Kings defenseman Vincent Arroyo, Washington Capitals draft pick, second rounder. He kind of reminds me of Charlie Ellick, and Braden Schneider just came through that Brandon Wheat Kings program, had a big impact. UFFS digital athlete Braden Schneider, one of our signed NHL players, had a great rookie season. Big impact for the Rangers and advancing to the conference finals and the Stanley Cup playoffs. But Charlie Ellick, sort of the next big thing in Brandon on the blue line. Again, I get him and EJ Emery mixed up a bit sometimes. But Charlie Ellick, a part of the future for UCAN Republic. Demidov, we've seen a few of these young Russian forwards. He's at 06, so I mean we're talking about 2003s in December. Even if Russia's back in 3 years from now, even if they get kicked out of 2 more tournaments, you could still have Demidov come in as an impact player for UCAN Republic. And tough for those guys, the Gumpa group. They were heavily invested in Russians. As Czechia almost breaks in here on a breakaway, close call, Garand. Remember, we're on the don't say the word watch here for Dylan Garand. 27 saves so far for the Anarchia goaltender. He's putting up a big stat line with a 4-0 lead halfway through the third period. Team Canada over Czechia in this semifinal. 28 saves, that was off that partial break. So far so good. Solid for Dylan Garand. I keep saying solid because he hasn't been spectacular. I mentioned maybe only the one breakaway all tournament long with Martin Rysak. He's scoring on it. But he hasn't faced many 2-on-1s. He hasn't faced many point blank, power play one-timers. He hasn't had to make too many spectacular saves. Let's just say that. But he's been solid. He hasn't given out many rebounds. He's looked composed, calm, confident. Hard not to be confident in Dylan Garand at this point in the tournament. He did let in one weaker goal against Switzerland, but not, no real blemishes in his tournament overall. He's been solid is the word that comes to mind as Canada beats Switzerland 6-3. And again, Bedard had a bounce-back game. I think Dylan Garand probably sees this as a bounce-back game for himself as well. Bedard's been a bit quiet since he scored, but hey, he scored the 2-0 goal that gave Canada that little bit of breathing room in the first period and has had an impact in this game. Anytime you're one of the 4 different goal scorers, you've had an impact. So Bedard's been good. He's bounced back. And if Dylan Garand thought I jinxed him. There's Jan Mysak scoring. Czechia captain. Scoreways on the board with their Czechia captain off a drop pass off the rush. Snipes it far side inside the post. We got 9:06 to go in the third period, and Czechia is on the board trailing 4-1. Jan Mysak, Montreal Canadiens prospect, kamikaze prospect in the UFHL, leading the way for Czechia as their captain. And a big goal for Scoreway to stay in that medal race. Again, they have Gabriel Stutz and Jan Mysak as Czech players that if the U.S. would have won, they only would have had, I believe, Riley Duran was their only American player. Real depth forward. Actually, that was off the shaft of the stick, blocker side. It didn't quite go inside the post. It went through Garand. So he might not love that goal, similar to who had Canada's second goal? Johnson, and then Bedard's goal. Similar to Bedard's goal, kind of goalies don't like when the puck goes there because that's a squeezer. You should squeeze that one off or be able to react with your arm already up. You should be able to bring it in tight and deflect that away. So Grant probably won't love that goal, even though it was a decent shot from Jan Mysak of Scoreway and the Czechia captain. So we'll see what kind of push Czechia can have in these final 9 minutes now that they're on the board. But obviously Canada still a 3-goal lead, pretty comfortable position. No shutout for Anarchia there. Now we can say it. The shutout watch is over for Dylan Garand. But as mentioned, Connor Bedard bounce back game today. Getting the goal. Now currently the GWG, if the score holds up, Connor Bedard as the game winner today, the GWG for Velta Cunha. Those are big points, that extra bonus point for the game-winning goal, especially with how close the standings are in UFWJ between Velta Cunha and East End at the top of the standings. So that could be a big, whoever gets the GWG is going to be a big point in the big picture for UFWJ. Prior to that, I mean, if Anarchia pitched the shutout with Garand, then Kent Johnson of East End would have got the GWG and the bonus points. So now the GWG shifts from East End's Kent Johnson to Connor Bedard of Velta Cunha. So that's a big turning point in the UFWJ standings, just by who has the current GWG if it stands up. And now as Dean Millard and Ian Constable and Craig Button, are you now all of a sudden cheering for another Czechia goal so that Bedard doesn't get that bonus point? It goes to Logan Stankoven of Elite Prospectia. Elite Prospectia isn't a threat for gold, so now Czechia is going to get a power play here. So maybe you do get a situation where no longer, and there's still 7:28 to go. If they score here, things could get interesting. But maybe you cheer for Czechia to score on this power play so Bedard doesn't get that bonus point. It goes back to Elite Prospectia with Logan Stankoven's 3-0 goal. But again, Demidov for UCAN Republic on the protected list. Guy that's going to be, 2006 born guy. We're talking about 2003s in December. So 3 more years of UFWJ, count. So he'd be 2003 in December, 2004 the following December, 2005 and 2006. So technically counting this coming December, these 2006 guys we're talking about are 4 more years of UFWJ, but they probably don't make the tournament for 3 more years. They probably only play twice. Maybe their draft year, but usually the year they were drafted and the year after they were drafted is typically the way it works in the World Juniors. You play World Juniors the year you were drafted and the year after you were drafted if you're not in the NHL. So even for the high-end first-round picks, not many of them play in their draft year. Certainly not for Canada or USA. I mean, Demidov in Russia, it's hard to say. But as I was mentioning, we're talking about goaltenders and Dylan Garand. That was a big blow to UCAN Republic. They lost their first-round pick from December, Yaroslav Askarov. They went with the Russian goaltending tandem of Askarov and Yegor Guskov. So to lose them, they also lost Merit Kuznedinov, one of their go-to forwards, one of their top 3 forwards, another Russian, with Russia being banned from this summer tournament as well as the winter tournament. Big losses for UCAN Republic. But Demidov, he's young enough. 4 more UFWJ tournaments. They can't keep Rush out for 4 more years, can they? He's probably going to come back in year 3 or year 4. They might get some big impact from Demidov down the road. Zetterberg, I believe that is a nephew to Henrik Zetterberg, or it's not his son, but I believe there's some relation to Henrik Zetterberg. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, Trusty Elite Prospects is just a hand away here. Oh, heads up, we got a 4-2 game. Jan Mysak might have tipped that shot from David Jirasek, or no, I think that's Jirasek. Monstopia is on the board. David Jirasek, and oh boy, nail biter now for the fans in attendance. That's a quick power play goal, 7:16 remaining. Off the face-off win. Moving it around. We'll see who gets the assist here, because this is big for UFWJ points. Mysak's going to get 1 assist, and whoever sent that back to the point. But point shot, 1-timer from Jirasek. Nope. I don't know if somebody touched it in front. That might have went straight in. But, I don't think Garand tracked it or picked it up off the post and in. I mean, that's a perfect shot. But nevertheless, quick strike from the Czechia power play. We got a 4-2 game. We're talking protected lists. No offense to Will Smith, but we're going to go back and look at the UFWJ standings now. Get that up here and get focused on the game, because at 4-0 it was Do we have a goaltending change? We might have a goaltending change here for Czechia. It looks like Pavel Kajin is in goal for Czechia. Not sure why. He played for Kitchener in the OHL. Thomas Suchanek is out. And I don't know if that let's get the chat going here too, because you guys can help me. I don't have volume here, so I don't know if that change happened at the start of the third period or if that's a change that just happened after that 4-2 goal. But Pavel Kajin has replaced Thomas Suchanek in goal for Czechia. Pavel Kajin is the goaltender for Elite Prospectia, but I think they have him. I can check that too. They have Jan Bednar as well, and I think they have Kajin benched today, so I don't think they'll even get these points. Let me check that out. But yeah, here we are, 4-2, David Jurasek power play goal, big time goal. Dean's voting at UFWJ for his tournament MVP and All-Stars. He's wondering, can he go all East End players, or is that a conflict of interest? And again, I mean, that's always the tough thing, right? You're there and you're focused on your East End players, but you also gotta get a say in the tournament All-Stars, and the media does vote the top players at each position and stuff. And it was fun doing that in Vancouver in 2019. Most of my guys that I picked ended up being on the actual All-Star team and the award winners, but there was a couple surprises. What was I looking up here again? I was looking up the rosters today in UFWJ. There you go. So Bednar was benched by Elite Prospectia. So good play by, and that might have been the change. Ed's awesome. Ed Palumbo, again, works for Elite Prospects. He's sort of been GMing Elite Prospect. He puts in brackets here, if we pay better attention to the lineup this time. But he did. He had both the backups for Czechia. I mean, at the start of the tournament, Jan Bednar was the starter because Jakub Malik wasn't back for Scoreway. So all of a sudden it looked like this is great news for Elite Prospectia. They're going to have the starter in Jan Bednar from Czechia. Well, of course, he loses the job to Thomas Suchanek from Republic of the Seven Seas. And now, all of a sudden, midway through the third period, I'm not sure what happened there, but now we got Pavel Kajin in goal, who Elite Prospectia had the 1-2 punch. They had Bednar and Kajin, and a lot of people thought that might have been the depth chart going into this tournament. Some had Suchanek as number 3. Obviously, Suchanek emerged as number 1. Kajin was number 3. And now here we are halfway through the third period of the semifinal, and Pavel Kajin's in goal, and Elite Prospectia is on it. Prior to the start of the game, no less. This was at 8, not even 9 a.m. Eastern this morning. Oh, Canada's got another one. Joshua Roy of Can West. Speaking of Can West, Joshua Roy makes it a 5-2 game for Canada. Tucks one past Pavel Kajin. That's a tough start for Pavel Kajin. I think that might be the first shot he's faced, assuming he came in when I first seen him on the screen here. But Joshua Roy makes it 5-2 for Canada. Tough spot for Kajin to come into when Suchanek's been so good all game and all tournament. But that's Elite Prospectia takes a goal against there. So minus 0.5 fantasy points. And look who got the assist, Dean Millard. Get him on the All-Star team, Olin Zellweger. Team Canada defenseman. He's been Canada's best D all tournament long. Offensively anyway, as far as fantasy points in UFWJ. Primary assist again for Olin Zellweger, setting up Joshua Roy of Can West. 5-2 game with 5:32 remaining in the third period. A little bit of breathing room for Canada again after got a little bit nervous moments there when it was 4-2 with half the period to go on that quick strike power play from Czechia. But they're not done. They're pressing in on Grand again. But yes, Pavel Kajin, who's now in goal for Czechia, is in the lineup today for Elite Prospectia. They now have the game-winning goal. Logan Stankoven of Elite Prospectia would be getting the bonus 1.0 fantasy points, a full fantasy point bonus for game-winning goal. So that would be big if this holds up for Elite Prospectia as they try to, we're looking at the standings here. If they're trying to get back into it and chase down Scoreway. But of course, Scoreway's had a good game. I mean, you go, Nathan Gaucher has an assist on the Bedard goal, and Jan Mysak the captain for Czechia, has a goal and an assist. He had an assist on the power play goal that we saw by Jurasek. He scored the first goal to get Czechia on the board. So Scoreway is having a big game, even though, like I said, if they had lost USA, they were only losing Riley Durand, who's a depth forward fourth liner for USA. They didn't have many Americans. Well, they did have a couple important Czechia players, including the captain, Jan Majsek, who's got 2 points in this third period, and also got a point from Nathan Gaucher. So although Elite Prospectia is pushing up, 75 points was a lot to make up, and Scoreway's having a pretty good game too, even if Logan Stankoven ends up with the game-winning goal here. So as he just finished his hit on big David Jurasek. And Stankoven, small guy, 5'9", at most. I'm 5'9"-ish. Me and Logan are pretty eye to eye. I might be a little bit taller than him when I interview him off the ice, but pretty close. I did a big feature on Logan prior to last season. He led the WHL in preseason scoring, did a big feature on him heading into the year, and a great interview, great kid, awesome, and a strong kid. You can tell by his handshake, his lower body, his core, kind of built like Sidney Crosby, tree trunks from the waist down, and just a solid frame, and that's why he's knocking a 6'5" David Jurasek over. And last game, when he was player of the game, he threw 2 big hits like that on guys that towered over him. So smaller in stature and height, but he's thick, he's solid, and he's not going to be pushed around. Definitely look out for Logan Stankoven throughout this tournament, going into the gold medal game tomorrow. He's been Canada's best player of the game in the quarterfinals, and probably in contention for player of the game again today. Although I think, Dean, if you're voting player of the game, I think you are safe to say Kent Johnson for Canada. Scored the first goal. He's got at least 1, if not 2 assists. Stopped on that breakaway when that could have blown the game open. But Kent Johnson's had his best, most impactful game of the tournament. He's the player of the game, in my opinion, for Canada as it stands, with 5-2 with 3:50 to go in the third period. I'd be voting Kent Johnson, and I have no allegiances to East End. So if you're voting player of the game, I don't know if media gets to do that. I don't think. No, they don't, because the team, the countries themselves, coaching staff, management select the player of the game. But so even Craig Button doesn't get to vote on player of the game. But I think no homer. I think for Dean's perspective, the player of the game should be Kent Johnson for Team Canada here, assuming the 5-2 score holds up, as Kent Johnson's in on the forecheck again with this line as they take some more time off the clock and help secure this semi-final victory for Team Canada, who would obviously advance to the gold medal game, play the winner of Sweden and Finland in tonight's other semi-final, with huge implications for East End. They're loaded with Finnish players. They're trying to hold their own with Valtakunja in this game. On the anticipation that they can close that, as we're looking at it, a 10-point gap here, 9-point gap going into this game. If they can close that and be close going into tonight, they have a manpower advantage between Sweden and Finland. But Jesper Wallstad can shut the door. If he shuts the door and Sweden wins 1-0 tonight, advantage, at least, well, shouldn't say advantage. Valtakunja might still be ahead, but it would make for a heck of a finale tomorrow. Either way, it's coming down to the gold medal game on Sunday, whether it's Canada-Finland or Canada-Sweden. It's going to be an awesome finale tomorrow to UFWJ. We'll be right back here doing another watch party, so definitely tune into the gold medal game tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern start. Really looking forward to wrapping up UFWJ. And speaking of wrapping up, myself and Dean Millard will host another special UFWJ recap on Sunday once the final stats are in. Big shout out to Nathan Bender again. He's our stats whiz. Obviously, there's nowhere you can host a UFWJ or a World Juniors Dynasty League on Fantrax or any other existing fantasy sports platform. So this is all done via VLOOKUPs and spreadsheets and mastery of Excel from Nathan Bender. So very grateful to have Nathan's skill set, and he's the only reason that we actually do have a UFWJ World Juniors Dynasty League. So shout out to Nathan. And again, we always get the stats up the next day. So tomorrow we'll hopefully have them out before the bronze medal game, but for sure before the gold medal game, we'll have the semifinal update before the watch party tomorrow night. And then we'll be on to the gold medal game. And then obviously Sunday, before we do the UFWJ recap at 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll have the big announcement as to who the gold medal winners are in UFWJ. And when it gets into tomorrow, again, this is it's not live scoring. This is overnight scoring, and things change in IIHF. Ice time changes, shots on goal changes. Things change overnight, but the counting stats, goals, assists, power play points, shorthanded points, game-winning goals, that sort of stuff you can kind of track live because you know, okay, goals, 2.5 points, assist is 2.5 points, any sort of special teams point is a bonus point, game-winning goal is a bonus point. You can track that. Neither Valtacuña or East End will be tracking goaltending stats. Neither of their goalies will be playing today or tomorrow. They only have backups left, Brett Brochu of Canada for East End and Juha Jaakkola of Finland for Valtacuña, so don't expect any fantasy points from goaltenders, so they can focus on skaters and counting stats for the most part tomorrow, and I'm sure they'll have the calculators out, because I'm expecting a close, within, I think it'll be even closer than 10 points come tomorrow's update. So that gold medal game, I think the calculators will be out, and they'll be doing their own live scoring, as I'll try to throughout the game as well with the watch party tomorrow night. But Canada has officially defeated Czechia 5-2 in the first semifinal at the World Junior Championship in Edmonton, and that's big for Anarchia. Dylan Garand gets the winning goal. He's now 5-0 in this tournament for Anarchia and for Team Canada. And obviously, Logan Stankoven of Elite Prospectia, game-winning goal again. As far as Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors goes, big extra bonus point for Elite Prospectia. Tough to catch up in the medal race, but Stankoven, again, one of those guys that'll be back at Christmas. He's an impact player here. He'll be even better. I said maybe it'll be Savoy and Bedard. It might be Stankoven and Bedard, although, because both Kent Johnson and Tyson Forster are graduating. They're O2s. So now you're looking at it as, okay, does Stankoven move up and play with Bedard, or does Savoy slide in there? And things change a lot in the World Juniors from year to year. That's why that annual draft in December is going to be so awesome. But congratulations to everybody that racked up points throughout today in UFWJ. And we got a big one tonight. I know everybody's excited. Dean says he's off to interview only East End players. That's what I like to hear. But, yeah, definitely it'll be good to see. I think Kent Johnson's the player of the game today for Canada. We'll stick around on the watch party here and see who gets these awesome Indigenous art sticks, custom sticks, as they bring out the award presenters for player of the game for both countries. Who gets it for Czechia? Probably Jan Mysak, the captain. They'll also do the top 3 players of the tournament for Czechia. Has to be Mysak, probably Jurasek, and probably Suchanek. Although they've had Yuri Kulich could be a top 3 player. Let's see who gets the Yuri Tichasek. See, I mentioned Yuri Tichasek. This guy's been awesome. Smaller defenseman, but super skilled. Player of the game for Czechia from Yukon Republic in UFWJ. He stood out in the quarterfinal game when they upset USA. I thought he was the best defenseman. He gets player of the game in the semifinal loss to Canada. And Canada's player of the game, no surprise, East End's own Kent Johnson opened the scoring for Canada, had a few points on the day, and really his line, he drove the offense for Canada today. Kent Johnson could have had 2 goals, got stoned on a breakaway by Thomas Suchanek, but awesome to see Kent Johnson step up, lead the way, and get that collector's item stick as player of the game. Now they're going to do the top 3 players of the tournament for Czechia. Like I said, as Dean heads down to do some post-game interviews, quite the finale to this game. But now the big game, all eyes tonight are on Jesper Wallstad of Monstopia trying to stone Atu Ratty of East End and Joachim Kemmel of Scoreway. And, Monstopia is not that far back in the medal race. Scoreway probably had the better game in this early game, although David Jurasek power play goal, how about that for Monstopia? Still hanging around. And then, if Wallstad has a big game or 2 big games in a row, with Scoreway not having any goaltenders left, that could there's 20 fantasy points potentially. Or look at Wallstad at Christmas, 48 save shutout, 17 fantasy points. If he pitched 2 of those back-to-back, Monstopia is right there with Scoreways. So definitely, yeah. And Alex says that'd be so funny if Wallstead tried to trade him to everyone and he could be a big factor. And you make that, I mean, now, you know what, I think, and Dean's not here to comment for himself, but I think East End, they took, and I didn't even know this for a fact, this is my speculation, not Dean's feedback, but I think the reason they stood pat at the trade deadline is they took a look at the reinforcements, the ringers that Valtacunha brought in. Matt Coronado, William Dufour, Alexi Himoselmi, Donovan Sabrango, Caden Mbarico. And again, you know, going back to Wednesday, we thought the Americans were advancing to the semifinals. Those 7 players from USA would have got 3 more games for Valtacunha. When you look at it that way, and you know, East End only had Charlie Stramble. That was their lone American. They would have lost Sposal and Goot. So now all of a sudden, you know, you're down, you know, 6, 7 extra players compared to Valtacunha. They would have an 18 advancing versus 12 or 10. So when you look at it that way, 8 extra players, even if you acquired Wallstead, he's not offsetting the impact of 8 extra players. But now, I think they stood pat because they thought we could settle for silver, worst case scenario. They didn't think Scoreway had enough firepower left to catch them in the medal round or anybody below third. So worst case scenario, they thought we can stand pat, keep our first round pick, our second round pick, our protected list that's loaded for December, keep all those guys, and the worst we're going to do is second. And we're probably not, even if we bring in Wallstead and we bring in, you know, Wallander or Kaiser or whoever else, we're probably not going to have enough firepower to keep up with Valtacunha if they have an 8-player advantage. So you bring in Wallstead, you bring in a couple other guys, maybe you bring in 3 guys at the deadline. Well, they still have a 5-player advantage if USA won and USA got the 3 games instead of the 1. You're probably not going to make up an 8 or 5-player manpower advantage. So they looked at it that way, that if all the favorites win, no matter who we acquire on deadline day, we're not built, you know, for this tournament as well as Valtacunha. But when the Americans got upset and they lost, and Valtacunha lost 7 players, and East End only lost 1 player, a depth player in Charlie Stramble, all of the sudden, now when you look at the standings, you look at the way this early game went, now if they had Jesper Wallstead or the other goaltender who was available throughout the tournament, Levi Marilainen, Republic of the Seven Seas, despite being in 5th place, put Levi Marilainen, who's their starter tonight. They started him over Suchanek in this game, from this game. Marilainen was available. East End could have went all in on Finland, acquired Marilainen, likely for a fairly reasonable price. Then they would have had that extra goaltending game going into the semifinals and the medal game. Would have that been enough? Just 1 extra player now, whether it was Wallstead or Marilainen, could have that put East End ahead of Valtacunha with the fact that Caden Mbarico is eliminated? Had they acquired Marilainen or Wallstead, that might have put East End over the top. But had the Americans won, even if they acquired Wallstead or Marilainen or some of these other forwards and defensemen, probably they couldn't have made up that manpower advantage that Valtacunha had developed if all the favorites advanced from the quarterfinals. But that USA upset has really turned the UFWJ upside down as far as this, you know, battle for gold between East End and Valtacunha. It's going to come down to the gold medal game tomorrow, and you're right, Alex, maybe if Wallstead has a big impact or Marilainen has a big impact, one of those goalies are going to win at least 1 game, if not 2. You know, so when you're looking at it that way, maybe in hindsight now East End's wishing they would have grabbed one of those goaltenders or wishing they would have loaded up. But prior to the quarterfinals, the trade deadline was the off day between the group stage and the medal round. At that point, looking at the rosters that were going to the playoffs or to the medal round, Valtacunha, if the Americans had won, again, Bordeleau, Coronado, Luke Hughes, Caden Mbarico, there was no matching that firepower with just Jesper Wallstead or just Levi Marilainen. So the amount of acquisitions they would have had to make at the deadline and at the 11th hour to match up with that firepower of Valtacunha, it probably wasn't possible. And like I said, I think they took a hard look at it and said, we can stand pat and win silver, or we can spend protected list players, draft picks, and probably still end up in silver unless we're getting 5+ players at the trade deadline. So I think they took a hard look at it and expected the favorites to win and thought, we'll stand pat. Nobody's catching us for silver, and we're going to be that much better come December, or, we'll reload from our protected list in December and we'll be a contender again. I think that was the decision that East End made. But now with the Americans getting upset, USA out, all of a sudden that one extra player, that goaltender, Wallstetter-Marilainen, could have been the difference for East End to overtake Valtacuña. So fascinating how this inaugural Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors tournament is shaping up, and we're not done yet. Gold medal game tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Canada will play the winner of tonight's semifinal, Sweden or Finland. Canada will play Sweden or Finland tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Twitch channel. But that's all for today, guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in. All our UFWJ fans. Thanks, Scotty. I see a great job there. And one last comment from Alex. He says, I've got my own regrets on not making deals in time, so I won't comment more. Thanks for the commentary. Yeah, appreciate it. I mean, Alex was here start to finish today. And again, you're watching Canada, Czechia in a semifinal. You could be at a pub, you could be, have friends over, whatever, and there you are listening to me on Twitch, provide commentary on all things UFFS. So really appreciate the feedback and the support, guys, and try to be more engaging in the chat, ask some questions. We're going to eventually get some polls up on the Twitch channel, get it more interactive, have some more giveaways. Also, we're going to get, as Dean mentioned, UFHL Now back, Inside UFLB back. The weekly shows for the leagues are going to be up and running. And we're certainly going to get personalities on, guests on, including guys like Alex LeBlanc and, the LeBlanc family. We talked about Can West. We talked about, Scoreway and Dale Hardy and how they're involved in all different aspects of UFFS. Same can be said for the LeBlanc family. I believe they're in every sport to some degree. And obviously here with Jeremy Plamondon and Mike Moore and the LeBlanc family with Monstopia. Looking good. Alex has them predicted for gold for the December tournament. And hard to argue. They got a lot of, look at, there you saw David Jurasek score a goal in this game for Czechia, and big Simon Edvinsson. We'll see if Edvinsson's back tonight for Sweden. I haven't heard yet if he's going to play. I assume he will. Actually, I could be wrong. He might have already played. He might have already played in the quarterfinals. I can't even remember now if he played against Latvia or not, but he missed the last group stage game anyway. But I expect Edvinsson will play in the medal round, hopefully for Monstopia and Sweden, and be a big impact guy along with Simon Edvinsson. So Monstopia will regroup and be back to watch that game in a little over an hour as Sweden and Finland battle for the right to play Canada in the gold medal game of the 2022 World Junior Championship tomorrow night, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Tune in right here on the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Twitch channel. I'll be back, Larry Fisher, and appreciate everybody joining us on these watch parties, and always a lot of fun to host them. So until tomorrow, we will sign off and enjoy the late semifinal, everyone, and then be ready on pins and needles tomorrow for the UFWJ standings update from the semifinals. But until then, enjoy the late game, and we'll see you tomorrow for the gold medal game. Have a good